Hi, my name is CYOA and I want to take you on an adventure. We're going to be going through a CYOA by Ordion Anon called Cursed City Resident CYOA, Volume 2. Just a little backstory. I started this all the way in October of last year, 2021, and I got COVID immediately as I was recording it, and my brain done broke, so it took me a long time to finish it, and then I finished it while I had COVID. It didn't sound great. It was way too long, and now I totally missed the spooky season, and so this whole aesthetic doesn't quite fit with April and May, but screw it, we're here now. Let's get into it.
That fateful day still burns in your memory. The sky was black with clouds, with only flashes of light provided by electricity. The power was out, even the streetlights were not working. Everyone was running to flee your city. But the blockade soon began to go up. The government was going to contain the mistake it made. Of course, no one who actually created the problem would suffer for it. Just everyone who lived near them. One bright flash, and then the darkness was a law indeed. When you awoke, you felt new, better, stronger, healthier. And the city was so nice too. The others who did not escape seemed to have also changed. There was no need to eat, no need to drink. You all wandered about doing whatever it is you wished to do. But then they started appearing. The before. Small, weak, and like cockroaches. Pure pests. They were coming to take back what they abandoned to you, claiming to own what they renounced. They are repulsive. They must be squashed. Kill them. Kill them all. Why do you hate the before? You may have more than one reason, but choose a primary reason you hate the before.
From the get-go, it actually gets me. The existential dread of having this force, like the government or anybody with a gun to your face saying you have to stay fucking here when you know something else is coming. Like the idea of trying to prep or something for an oncoming nuclear attack, and that sort of, oh fuck, if we don't do something, we are straight up dead. And somebody's like, yeah, well, if you try to do anything to stop it, you're gonna die. And so you're in this sort of tired, panicked state immediately to where, oh fuck, it's I need to, you frantically search for some way to act with nowhere to go. I'd want to fucking kill him too.
Abandoned. They left you. The blockades could have shut later, but they chose to close them. They did not know you would survive. They did not know you would grow strong. Their mistake. You will never give the before the chance to create another problem and then leave it behind.
It's just that typical inhuman calculousness of bureaucracy. Like, well, we could deal with any potential people leaving or any sort of infection spreading out. So, we're just going to have to take that human loss and get them the fuck out of there. Now, I'm not even saying that I don't understand it to a certain degree. And I can get it and empathize almost. But it still doesn't make you any fucking less mad, any less bitter at those cunts for leaving you. No, thank you.
Falsely imprisoned. The before put you in their jail, but you know you did no wrong. They lied, used tricks to put you in there. Your system cheated you out of your freedom. Now it's your turn to cheat the before out of their lives, to torture them the way they tortured you in that cell.
This one burns at me bad, and I think it burns a lot of people personally, right? So you can see these sort of generalized injustices that I think, being social animals, we've evolved to kind of really be uncomfortable with, because in the back of our minds we subconsciously know that, hey, if it happens to somebody else, it can happen to us. But when it happens to us, we freak the fuck out. So not just it happening to us, but this giant sort of structure, this faceless, emotionless nothing, people using that with the force of the state behind it to put you away and to fuck you, that has got to be one of the most infuriating things. And even if you don't really give a shit too often, that'll burn you up inside in that cell for the entire time. I can see hate being generated from that easy.
Worn down. The before society is not like your current homes. They have unwanted and undesirables, people treated poorly by the majority. Such cruel treatment by the before whittled you into a husk. You are whole now, and you shall crush their unfair world.
Now, this one personally speaks to me a lot less. And I think that's because in my mind, there's always, at least being an American, there at least feels like a certain amount you could always leave and say, you know what, fuck this, I'm disconnecting, I'm going to get the fuck out of here, and I'm not going to deal with these other people and these entire sort of social systems kind of beating me down and dealing with that. You know what, I'm going to focus inwardly and outwardly in a smaller community and not deal with the constant pressure. But looking at this again, I can kind of see it. I can kind of see how, like, let's say you're in a situation to where, you know what, you don't have the skills to deal with it. Like, you're not brought up with that way. You haven't developed them socially, and you're just constantly getting beaten, ground down before you're able to breathe enough to sort of make up sort of to those thoughts in your own head and sort of come up with yourself. And then, you know, before you know it, you're 32, you're still a fucking just a bagger at a grocery store wondering what the fuck happened to my life. And it's just, you know, there's nothing left to, it feels like, to live for, but besides these consume bullshit pleasure, like immediate hedonistic society. And then it all goes down and you're this, you know, whatever that's happened to you. I can see all of that sort of animosity and this misanthropy coming out to the fore, definitely.
Malice. You don't have a specific reason for killing them before. Perhaps when you were before you hated them already. Or perhaps you just like to hurt them for being weaker than yourself. Maybe you don't like insects in your home. Whatever the reason, they need to be culled.
Dark!
Too much, man. That's way too much. Way too outwardly aggressive and undirected aggression, mostly. And I think that's my issue with it. It's thoughtless, and that's the worst. Something about it offends me, and I'm not offended easily. Just not thinking about why you're hurting people, what you're doing, the sort of unexamined life, and then just doing nothing but using this gift to just bring fucking, you know, malice to people. No thank you. Falsely imprisoned, I think that's a fantastic motivation. That's the one I'd use. Malice can suck it. Worn down, I want to make black pill jokes and kind of shit on it, but, you know, I can see it. I can definitely empathize with some people who are broken and abandoned. Also acceptable, but not as viscerally fucking maddening as falsely imprisoned.
You have changed. You are no longer before. You are much greater now. You possess the following traits innately. Power. You possess a form stronger than any before. You can shatter their bones by swinging a piece of styrofoam. Even high-caliber bullets can only pierce an inch or so. You can regenerate even from death, reappearing in a safe area only an hour after death. The before fear your wrath.
Well, that seems to set you up from the get-go. Gives you the enhanced strength, you have the regeneration, just really all of the sort of things like the safe bets in CYOAs. Like there's usually in the power fantasy ones, there is a lot of things like, hey, keep you alive and sort of never have to deal with the consequences of your actions. And this seems to be like, yeah, no, we're not going to waste your time. You can get that out of the way real quick. So that's kind of nice.
Revulsion. Even if you still possess a form not too dissimilar to a before, they will still fear and revile you. They see you the way a deer sees a wolf, as a predator. The reverse is true. You find the before utterly repugnant. They are like cockroaches infesting a home, just pests to be squashed and killed.
So this gives you not built-in motivation, but a sort of it gives you your role. It forces you to deal with what you are. There isn't a a chance to permanently be like, yeah, no, there's no little awful little girl option in this. You have to be a monster, because everybody else, all of the normies, are just gonna absolutely lose their shit at the sight of you. And I think rightfully so. You've changed, right? This is telling you your entire point of view is totally fucked, and or maybe it's if you're of a more a misanthropic disposition. It's right in line. Absolutely, these fucking normies. They're all just bugs. I think it's kind of neat. It forces you to role play as this monster, which is pretty great. Monster, maybe a little strong of a word. Some feds come and turn you into a giant roach, constantly puking. Your mileage may vary, but I'd be annoyed.
Sustenance. You do not need to eat, sleep, or drink. You may still do them for pleasure, and indeed many of your neighbors in this city choose to do so, but it is not necessary. You can even devour them before, though you find their flesh is bland and lacking in flavor. They can't even serve a useful purpose as food, it seems.
I dig this. It's more flavor around. You could eat and do whatever, but it takes out all of the little utility, time wasty sort of ones, to where it's just like, well, I could be picking really fun, interesting options for a spec, but I'm pragmatic and I'm going to take these other ones where I'm like, well, eating is a chore. Doing all of this stuff outside of the pleasure aspect, and eating it, as if food is an art and wanting to appreciate it. It's don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You could be a fucking animal and suck off their bone marrow and all that jazz. You're fine. So you know what? I mean, as a beginning 3 introductory sort of like get you set up for the game to come, these are some of the best ones I've seen. Really doesn't waste your time. Speaking of wasting your time, quick tangent. If you mutated a ton, is it still cannibalism? Right? I mean, I guess if your genes are jacked to the point in which you're effectively no longer the same species, but like some weird genetically deformed offshoot, is it cannibalism? I'd say no. But
But before walk on 2 legs, have 2 arms, 1 head. You might, but you also might not. Pick 2 options in this section. Quadrupedal. You are capable of adopting a quadrupedal stance for increased speed. Your forelimbs will become longer so that they can reach the ground more easily, and they have increased strength and endurance so that they can be used for running. Your general physique also becomes noticeably stronger and tougher too. You will still possess your opposable thumbs, and you do not necessarily have to walk on all 4s if you do not wish. This simply makes it so you can use your arms as legs and have it be efficient.
Now, right off the bat, that's pretty good. I'm a huge proponent and fan of movement options in really anything. I love just the ability to navigate the world, because that informs so much of the rest about you and how you will deal with any sort of situation. And it is kind of like utility without being boring, because just the sheer act of getting from point A to B is fun at that point, rather than just a time waste. And this one is just fantastic, because you get you get all of the general physique built bonuses of being tougher, and you increase strength, which is sweet. And you get your thumbs. Dear God, you get your thumbs. Having to walk around with paws would be lame. And I think this is kind of like a werewolf option, right? So if you want to go for like a werewolf build or something, I mean, you're able to, do that whole thing. Now, I'm a huge fan of the not the man wolf where it's just a dude with a fuzzy face. He's got that thing from like CSI where he's like, oh, look at you, it's weird, he's got a birth defect. No, the kind of Worgen from WoW, or there's other really good ones. I think War Dogs was a movie that had them, to where they're just these giant, tall, sometimes a little emaciated, thin, kind of like a Wendigo, but getting that just the long hands and long arms, and then that type of werewolf, and then being able to like go on all fours and run really fast. It's aesthetically, it's so pleasing, I guess is a word, but that almost sounds weird and furry, and furries have done werewolves dirty and it's unpleasant. But anyway, back on point. It seems like a pretty great option first, like immediately, so that's cool.
Multi-limbed. You have multiple extra arms and legs. You can use them to run faster, strike with multiple attacks from multiple different angles, and to grapple more easily. The extra limbs grant you immense versatility, and you can choose to retract your additional limbs similar to multi-organ to hide them. The additional limbs will be coordinated so that they do not collide with one another or get in the way of each other when you are using them. The additional limbs generally must be near the original. You can't have arms where legs would be, for example.
So I feel weird about this one. At first, the idea is it doesn't speak to me really. I'm just like, the ideal monster in my head doesn't have multiple limbs. At best, it has two smaller ones up front, like at the bottom of the your chest muscles, and maybe if you wanted to have like giant pincers or some weird clawed hands that are permanently like that, you'd have smaller little ones that you can do your taxes with or whatever. But looking at that picture right there, it's really interesting. It's giving me this like spooky, slow moving vibe, to where it's just like you're walking through a dark, sort of not even like a catacombs or something, and it's late, and you take a turn. It's been dark the entire way through, and then you see a bunch of torches, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Why am I? And then you just see at the back of the room, it's like sitting, and then it just slowly stands, and it walks towards you, and then it's like, what was that? Elfen Lied. That's it. Really, really early 2000s anime. It's based off of manga. It's been so long, but all I remember are these like weird ghost hands. And what they would do is they would come and they touch you. Your like limbs would fly off, and I imagine almost like a Souls boss. It slowly like walks to you, and then before you can even you can even recognize what's going on, it's holding one of your arms in its hand. It's so fast, Fist of the North Star. It just rips it right off, and it's that kind of immediate brutality, calm brutality. If you can do something like that with the multi-limbed, that'd kind of be neat. And then maybe something else if you had other things on appendages, that might also work. But I'm kind of going into this with a build in my head, and when I say build, not a build like I've like going through this making it before, but like an idea of something. I always really like like a beetle monster sort of thing, like a beetle knight, but more horror themed, if that makes sense. So that doesn't really speak to that, and I could see it in that general vein. But if I could do something like that, that would be dope. If there's just a better set of options, pick and choose. We don't have to go in here with the prejudice. That's fine. Let's just keep going. But probably not multi-limbed.
Tailed. You possess a powerful tail or multiple tails. Your tail is long enough that it can be a very far-reaching weapon, much more so than your limbs. You may choose to have multiple weaker tails or a single, very powerful tail. Your tail will also naturally be prehensile, allowing you to use it for very fine manipulation. No matter what, your tail or tails will be strong enough to support your entire body weight should you desire to hang or balance on them. Though, if you choose multiple tails, you will likely need to use most of them to support your weight.
This one's alright. It's not bad. It doesn't speak to me like a ton, but I can see it. In my head, something like a gigantic crocodile tail might be interesting. You're taking down giant concrete pillars with it, or a scorpion tail that has different weird things, pincer, and starts spitting acid, or just random stuff. The many other tails, like tendrils, kind of. That's kind of interesting. And if they're all prehensile, I can see weird tricks that is just fucking evil. You have like what is it? You have a before sitting in front of you, and you're just mentally fucking with him right before he dies. They're all you have a scalpel or something, and just kind of flipping it from one prehensile tail to the other, and just kind of spinning it constantly. And it's all right in front of his face, and he's drenched with sweat and just kind of terrified before, you're holding it right up to his eye, like right in between his eyes. You think he's about to get cut, and then he starts getting like stabbed from all the other tails at once, and it just really fucks with his brain. But no, I mean, so for like, if you wanted to do like a weird monkey thing, it would kind of be interesting to do have multiple fuzzy tails together and make them, they're like an octopus, but on the outside it's fuzzy, and you have multiple of them together, and it just looks like you have one really big fuzzy tail, but it can like open up like this disgusting slimy tendril thing, and the hair just makes it just feel just bad to look at. And like I could see hanging from a pipe or something with the prehensile monkey tail, and it says you might need most of them, but that means you at least get like 1 to 3 maybe still, if you have enough prehensile tails with fine manipulation. You could use them to throw things or attack people while your hands are free to write a handwritten letter to the government saying you're not going to do your taxes. I don't know. Just anything. I think it's neat. No, wait. So the opposite. Fuck the tails.
Multi-organed. You have multiple vital organs. This includes internal organs, but also grants you multiple heads. The heads will have necks that can retract and extend, and you can even fully retract heads into your body to give one head more space. Your additional organs grant you increased stamina and the ability to keep fighting even through grievous wounds. If you lose your main head, your body will function much less efficiently until you regrow it. The extendable necks give you a great deal of vision.
This one seems like the utility option. Now, I said earlier that there wasn't a ton of utility. They cut out a lot of that, and up until now they did. And I like that there's only one, at least so far, because those increased stamina is really good, especially if you're if somehow, and ability to fight through grievous wounds. Now, if this, you really already don't super have to worry about it. So, I mean, unless there's like an objective you're imposing on yourself to accomplish or protect, that might be better. The extra brains is really good. I have to imagine that they would help a ton with things like if you do have the prehensile tail, it would make it kind of like a stegosaurus, to where they had a little tiny chestnut. I think they have a normal chestnut brain, but they have an even smaller brain in their tails, which function in the same way that this would, that they would be able to do things more with more fine articulate motion. And it would, God, I don't know why I keep mentioning Elfin Lied, but I imagine you're walking through a place, and then the second brain in your tail sees things, and it's probably like a logic gate, right? And if it's like you're setting off, like, are we attacking anything that's near us? If yes, then the tails just go off and just start piercing through necks and ripping off limbs and all sorts of horrible stuff. Multi-organed, I don't know. The multiple heads seems, it's really stupid if you're thinking in terms of a singular person and just a normal bipedal man. It's incredibly dumb and kind of goofy with the telescopic neck. But if you want to do like a Hydra sort of build, and you want to go big teeth, big, just snapping necks and just being this giant beast of a thing, then the multiple organs make sense. And then the mini brains, the Hydra heads, the telescopic neck thing, then it all kind of comes together. I'm not sure. The increased stamina got me the first time I saw this, and I was looking through it really quick. Now, the more I'm seeing this, I think it's down at the bottom. This was up there. No, thank you.
Flyer. You possess wings that allow you to fly. While it is true you do not need to eat to survive, to fly frequently will strain your self-sustaining ability too much. You will need to eat regularly to fly often. The flesh of the four is likely the easiest source of meat, as most other things in the city are your friends and not food. The wings can be any design you want: insectoid, avian, bat-like, or similar to a pterosaur. You can even just have two very large wings or multiple smaller wings. They are more vulnerable to harm than the rest of your body, so it would be wise to protect them.
They're friends, not food. You can't. Don't eat your fellow city dwellers. Oh, that was bad. Okay, good. Yeah, no, I'm going to take this one. I think it's pretty clear. This is the only one with so far that has a bad drawback that you have to eat. Really strains your system, but I mean, for flying, it's worth it. It's worth it. And it even mentions the insectoid, and quite frankly, I love it. And in my head, it would be more of a beetle one, rather, because I said it before. You already know, but it would be a beetle as opposed to something like, let's say, a dragonfly, which is shit. Thinking about it now, that's pretty good, probably, if you see the way they fly. Very much like helicopters. They kind of go backwards for all 3 dimensions. But I like the idea. If you do the beetle one, they're really large but sealed up in a big protective case, which is a bonus with the relatively delicate wings. And I can't think of any other ones that would be that I would want. I mean, eagle ones are cool. That picture of that weird chimera thing is neat, but honestly, the insectoids one just speak to me. Eating the food, it's not that bad. You'll figure it out. There's all sorts of shit in the city. Yeah, it says it would be wise to protect them. I mean, that's it comes default with a nice big chitness one if you go for something as especially delicate as a insectoid beetle wings.
Aquatic. Your form is able to swim much faster than normal. It is streamlined, and you also gain the ability to breathe water and have it oxygenate you as much as air would. You also become much larger and physically stronger when you are immersed in water or recently immersed in it. Your city has various waterways that allow you to take advantage of your aquatic agility. This also makes your structure and body generally stronger and tougher like quadruped does, even when not wet. You also gain fins and webbing, all of which can retract. Your body's speed and agility on land is not negatively hampered by this choice.
And aquatic comes in as the dark horse. Man, this is, I hate to be the one to say it, but this is just a quadrupedal plus. You have the basic extra strength and durability increase, same as that one. But you get the movement speed increase and ability to breathe underwater like aquatic. And sure, I can hear it already. You can run in a city. There's not a lot of water in the city unless you're in the sewer. Are you a sewer person? And yes. Chud for life. Wait, no, I'm better than that. I'm not human anymore. But, you still get it in the few situations that you would have water. You get a movement ability, and you get a super form, which, if you spray yourself with a hose, you get a little wet, it starts raining, you become this gigantic hulking beast. And it's pretty early, but I do have to mention the Ordion Anon's love of One Punch Man so far. This is the third reference I've seen. You have the sustenance, you have multi-organed, which is, I believe, the one of the big aliens with the little beads in their heads that make you regenerate. And then now you have the Sea King, I think. It's been a while since I read and watched season 1, but in its ultimate form, can't help but notice it. But yeah, no, Aquatic is just really good, and it being the last one, I'm definitely taking that first. And Flyer, multi-limbed and tailed seem very niche for a pick that I would want if I was going for something in particular. Multi-organed, also niche. And quadrupedal is just kind of BTFO by Aquatic, unless I was never going to go to Aquatic. I would go for quadrupedal, and then if I want to do like a werewolf thing, maybe a werebear, Bara bear. That would be my superhero name, Bara Bear Man. Just a big gay fucking bear wolf, or no, werebear. There you go. Fucking Christ. I do wonder though, if you took quadrupedal and aquatic, would you get together, would you even be even more hulkier, right? You get the toughness of both? That would be interesting. Just a fucking giant. But for now, yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be Flyer and aquatic. Just out of sheer meta alone, that sounds great. And I don't do meta. I don't like just meta picks, but it feels right, Ooh.
The before have weapons, but you are not unarmed yourself. You have 6 choices in this section. You may take the same choice twice to unlock its second level, which is more potent and powerful than the first.
All right, this is where you get the nitty gritty to really feel out the type of monster you are. I'm going to try to do this relatively rapid fire because there are so many choices in the vain attempt for this to not be 2 hours long, but it probably won't happen.
Teeth. Level 1. All your mouths possess sharp fangs. They are shaped to penetrate deep into flesh and can easily crush or break bones. Your jaw muscles also become much more powerful. Level 2. Your neck muscles become much more rapid, allowing you to strike much, much faster than before. Your neck or necks can extend more than normal, giving your bite no longer reach.
Well, this seems pretty straightforward. If you want to do something like a crocodile or a hydra with multiple heads and, hell, even multiple mouths on your hands, this would be a good thing. Honestly, this really would work for almost anything. There's an intimidation factor along with teeth. It's very primal. And something just real, there's visceral about ripping somebody's throat out or just taking a little nick out of them. I wonder what would happen with your mouth if you didn't pick this one. I guess you just have normal teeth or teeth relative to whatever you are without them being especially sharp or painful to feel. So yeah, this is great. But I don't know if I'm gonna get this one.
Claws. Level 1. Your hands all grow sharp, retractable claws. They are long enough to inflict brutal slashing wounds, and also can be used to climb objects very easily. The claws can completely retract to hide themselves completely. Level 2. You can extend your claws much, much further, making them into longer-reaching weapons. Your claws become much sharper, letting you cut much deeper while using less force to do so.
Now, these feel classic. These feel like something that most builds would or should have. I really do love the fact that they're retractable. That feels good to me. I'm somebody who likes their digits, their phalanges. I like being able to touch and manipulate things, and the idea of just having nothing but claws like in that picture right there sounds bad, man. The extendable for level 2 and being able to cut deeper with using less force. That seems like a very human issue, not the extendable ones. I could see stuff that you can use for that. But unless you're trying to Wolverine it and just like slash through metal, which, there's probably a use case for that. Level 1 seems to be all I would need. So I'm very much considering level 1.
Spikes. Level 1. Your head and tails possess long, stabbing spikes. You can have the spikes be horns, vagamizers, or even replace teeth to serve as extended fangs. The spikes can fold if they're in your mouth like some snake fangs can. Level 2. Your spikes can inject a powerful and fast-acting neurotoxin to paralyze and slowly stop the hearts of the before. It also has hemotoxic properties and will cause intense pain as it digests them from the inside out.
Now, I don't particularly love this, and I can see some stranger builds that might use spikes for these, but in my head, the type of creature I would like to create would be very humanoid. So having these just a couple spikes on the head, really, unless, does it say they're retractable? I don't think they're retractable. So being able to sit in chairs seemed like it would be a really rough thing. Now, I do like the level 2, the hemotoxic properties. That does sound kind of neat. It is a total mindfuck, just in terms of if you were somehow able to go and get in close to a big group of the before and then just stab them once in the gut and then just take off just the middle guy and just let it do its work. They all kind of collapse. The medics start taking off their clothes. They see the big puncture wound in the stomach. They're like, oh no, we was stabbed. What's happening? They take off their shirt. Half the unit's looking at him and they just see his insides melting. He's melting from the insides out, and they're just, oh, that'll fuck morale real bad. But other than that, there's no way that at least in this build I'm picking spikes.
Morning Star. Level 1. The ends of your hands and tail become extraordinarily hard and can extend and retract small spikes at will. This more or less turns them into morning stars, piercing and smashing the before. Level 2. Your arms and tail gain a mechanism similar to a mantis shrimp, one that lets you store immense elastic energy and release it. This makes your tail strikes and punches absolutely devastating.
So at first I really didn't like this one, and now depending on the interpretation of some of this, I may still hate it. Now, it says the ends of your hands and tail become extraordinarily hard. So does that mean my fingers? Does that mean just like I have iron fists? Or does it mean, like the picture and what the name would suggest, that I just have giant fucking clubs for hands that I can, poke out and retract spikes? That sounds fucking awful. This might work. Let's say if you had multi-limbed and you wanted a bunch of bludgeons on some of them, maybe that'd be okay. Like a crab claw on one, a bludgeon on the other, or a scythe or something. But no, that sounds awful. I mean, yeah, no, like the ability to smash things with blunt force is great. It's one of the strongest things. That's why like warhammers are so good. But with I love my phalanges, and I wouldn't want to lose them. Now the mantis shrimp thing is fucking dope though. That sounds just an immediate explosion, like faster. Now you saw before with the multi-armed guy. Now that would be exactly what it is. Their eyes couldn't even see it, like a gun going off. Bang! What the fuck was that? He just popped the guy's arm off. That would be interesting. But no, the Morning Star can suck it.
Razor Tentacle. Level 1. You gain 2 extra tentacles with razor-sharp blades at the end. They are not as strong as legs, nor capable of fine manipulation like hands, but have very long reach and great flexibility. Level 2, you gain 2 more tentacles and are also able to extend all of them further than just the level 1 ability.
this hurts. This hurts. I don't like it. I feel like my imagination is limited here because I can't. I mean, sure, I can imagine you whipping the slicing dudes with it, but maybe if you have other things attached to the tentacles, that you could shoot things out, or have stuff with, poison them with the spikes. Maybe put that on there. But I don't particularly love this. They're not as strong as legs. Are they as strong as arms? They don't have the fine manipulation like hands, but like, can they pull me around like Doc Ock, I guess? Is that it? Can I move around if I get level 2 throughout the city, having them go and pull me while my main withered, if I wanted to go with like a withered, desiccated body thing go on? Can that happen? That might be interesting. But otherwise, I don't know. I mean, it would just basically be the arms guy that I've been describing this whole time, but in tentacle form. I mean, cool, but for what I'm thinking, so probably not.
Corrosive touch. Level 1. Your touch can cause some serious chemical burns, and touching a before will cause them immense pain and damage to their flesh. Even fairly short contact can create burns that will reach into important blood vessels or organs. Level 2. Your melting touch burns much faster, completely dissolving affected areas much faster. This melting touch will also cause much more pain, and the before will suffer paralyzing neurogenic shock more easily with a touch.
I do dig this one quite a bit. The whole corrosive acid thing has really stuck with me ever since I saw what was it, the Fog or the Ghost, that Stephen King adaptation, when I was a kid, and you see the spiders with the webs that just slice dudes in half because it was all acidic. It was great. This you could do a lot with. I like the idea of having like a really lean, small, fast person. I wasn't thinking monkey, but now also monkey sounds kind of neat. Just kind of bouncing around, just running through people and just tagging them, tag, and just laughing the whole time. That's got to be really upsetting. And every time it tags them. Level 1, in my head, but level 2 would be even better, just through like flak armor and just like they're watching it burn through and they're just not able to get it off in time before it just melts down to their chest. This is all coming across as quite psychotic, but it's role playing. It's a monster. It's fine. It's don't call my social worker. Oh, I'm probably not picking this one. Not because it's not bad. I mean, I might. Let's continue. It depends. It depends. It's speaking to me, but it's not top tier like flying was, or aquatic as upfront as aquatic was, or claws. Claws seems very immediately up my alley. This is just like, oh, that's fucking dope sort of thing.
Electric flesh. Level 1. Your flesh is electrified. By touching or being touched, you can unleash a deadly electric shock. Your electric organs have a limit on how long they can shock before needing to recharge, and you have an insulation from your own shock. Level 2. Your electric organs can output electricity for much longer before you need to recharge. Your nervous system is also enhanced by this electricity, and you gain faster reflexes as a result.
So this one pains me in multiple different ways. One, this does seem, if you wanted to go with an aquatic build and you made up your cursed city to have a lot of water around it, it would be very, it would work very well with it. Now, what I've learned is that, I mean, this is clearly a utility option for level 2, with the faster reflexes, is that I might be the type of person who's just, gotta go with that utility every time, because it just seems like it would work so well with a lot of other things. Like, I imagine just let's just say a normal person, not even just the giant monstrosity. You're walking up, somebody has a gun at you, and you're able to focus in and just being able to react before they're able to do so. You look at where their barrel is, you look at it, you see them pulling the trigger, and you're not dodging the bullet. You're reacting before they're able to squeeze off a round. You're moving, and then the bullets go, and bullets move insanely fast. They pass by. They're like, "What the fuck? Did you just dodge a bullet?" No, I moved before the bullet left, and it's psychologically fucking with them. The electricity, I don't particularly care. You can kind of do the same thing, like I said, with the corrosiveness, just with electricity and shocking people, but it's less fun. It's less fun that way. Water, doing it while you're in water seems more interesting, and still, you're not like slinging bolts at people, which would kind of feel out of place anyway. So, for this, you're either going for the water thing or the fast reflexes, and I think I'm going for the reflexes, maybe. Oh, it feels gross to say it, but I think I am.
Jet Cutter. Level 1. Your wrists can release jets of extremely high pressure water. These jets can easily punch bullet-sized holes into bodies of the before at very long ranges. You naturally generate water over time to shoot. Level 2. You can shoot your water jets at a much faster pace, allowing you to utterly riddle the before. Your body also generates water at a faster pace in order to maintain this rapid fire.
I love this out the get-go. I just love it. I love something that has always been very appealing about the highly pressurized water just cutting through things. I know they have these CNC machines, I believe, that use water to cut steel. And this, just like a natural sort of machine gun. You give me a machine gun, just big bursts of it. And I love just the terror factor. You could go full Viet Cong, just hide in the shadows, burst off a couple rounds. They start shooting. They don't know where the fuck you are. You're moving around. You start riddling them with holes. And to make matters more just obscene is that on level 1, you don't even need level 2. But at very long ranges, you can put holes through people. You're standing up on the top of a building. You're looking down. You've got good eyesight. You're just putting holes through guys like a sniper. It's absurd, disgusting. Not to mention level 2, where like streams from like a minigun or something on a helicopter, just you're just kind of putting large swaths of men down. That'd be incredible. Or you're just kind of like blowing holes through buildings, just windows exploding. They don't see you coming because there's just people inside there. The before, they're not people. They're the before. We're the real people. The people with acid hands and giant bloody claws. I don't know if I made it clear. I definitely want level 2 of this.
Incendiary Breath. Level 1. You can exhale a stream of flaming, extremely sticky fuel from your mouth. The heat of the flames never seem to burn your mouth when using this. You have a limited supply of fuel to use, which recharges over time. Level 2. Your flaming breath has a much higher pressure, allowing you to spray it from significantly longer range. The flames also burn hotter, glowing bright blue instead of the ordinary orange.
So I like the idea of this one more than I like the mental practical applications of this. Now, it seems like you would either be able to, if not melt with level 2 through metal, let's say it's like a tank, worst case scenario, you would cook them alive on the inside. Nah, with it, I mean, the blue and red seems kind of neat. I like the idea if you could switch between level 1 and 2, have it just normal hot, and then when you're stop fucking around, you just burn through people. It feels like if there was a theme around this, it would be really good. You want to go for flames and everything. Something that does interest me is that the heat of the flames never burn your mouth. How much of the rest of your body is protected from the flames? Do you get like a natural heat resistance that if you like walk through the blue flames, are you just going to have your feet melt into puddles, or will you generally be able to walk through it without much damage. Just it's not as resilient as your mouth because it specifically states your mouth won't be burnt. I can't even. I mean, I could think potentially of stuff to do with this, but especially if you had multiple mouths, would be interesting. Multiple heads. But for what I have in kind of the wing, I mean, maybe if you're flying by, just a dragon build wouldn't be too bad. That's actually, I wasn't even thinking about a dragon. Still no. I mean, it's on the list. It's on the, give it like a B. It's on the upper part, but still not something that I'm like super excited about. It's like above electric flesh, if not for the reflexes.
Quills. Level 1. Your body creates many spines that are stored within it, and by opening flaps in your body, you can shoot them out rapidly. You naturally replenish your quills over time. The barbed spines shoot out incredibly fast and embed themselves very deeply. Level 2. Your quills gain an explosive effect. After penetrating a large mass, the quill will set off a small explosion inside, causing mass internal trauma and bleeding. This greatly increases their kill potential.
This leaves me in a bad position because I love and have always loved the idea of quills aesthetically. There is something so innately interesting and cool looking and disgustingly interesting in a way of the idea of something growing and shooting out quills. Like even that, like, what is it, trichtophobia, whatever, the idea of like holes in the skin, which is usually like the idea of like laying insects and then them burrowing out of you, like that weird sort of uncomfortableness doesn't go off when like you see the holes from the shooting quills, just because like the idea is that they're gonna, I don't know. It's not like a wriggling maggot or something. It is just this sharp piece of almost like bone. I remember, I think it was X-Men. It was barely in the comics, but it was one of them was in that X-Men Evolution. I think the cartoon show was. The point is that they shot their bones out, and it was the very same thing. Now something like this with quills at level 2 is fucking just incredible. Like you blowing it off, kind of like the Needler in Halo, which had the explosion after a certain amount of time, which that must feel so nice, and the idea of seeing it like a hatch in your arm or something open up, and then firing off a bunch of quills, and then like from the shadows, and then going back or doing something. Now that's really great. Now here's the problem. Jet Cutter's still better in like every way. Every way except aesthetically, which sucks. And even what's the thematically, Jet Cutter also works better if you have the aquatic build. And now it's starting to go like I'm building for a meta or just what's best, but less of that and more of these. I do like when the theme is tied together really well. And while quills are interesting, the water pressure jets, like how much better it is plus the aesthetic of it, comes out to a better score than just the pure aesthetic of the quills. And it's like relatively decent compared to like the rest of these options. You sort of utility and attacks, which sucks because the quills are dope.
Explosive sacs. Your body creates a small explosive sac that you can painlessly and easily tear off and throw. These sacs explode after a few seconds. You only create sacs when you desire, and you can create a limited amount before needing to recuperate. Level 2, the sacs you create can also be proximity triggered by the presence of the before, and thus be used as mines. You can choose when creating a sac to have it explode a time after removing it, or have it explode when it is near one of the before.
Bagel goose. That was so stupid. It's staying in. It reminds me of the bagel goose. I don't even know if that's its name. No, it's even sillier. Just there's this dragon thing in Monster Hunter, which has a bunch of explosive sacs around its neck that it just kind of drops bombs off. I think it's been a while, but since I played it, but that's what it reminds me of. This is pretty good. If you're doing like a fiery sort of build or dragony thing. This is really good. It feels really strong, especially with the proximity mines. And being a monster, sort of, since this is about a lot of spite, I think this is all powered by spite, and you're a monster, and I think terror and morale breaking of anybody you're fighting or the before is really important. So something like proximity mines and being able to place them in just the right spots at just the right time seems super, super important, because that would strike the fear into them and the terror to rout them. That being said, I don't know if with the build I'm coming up with so far that I want these. They're high up in the running. They're real high, because explosives are it's big boom death, concussion, flames, terror. But they have the limited drawback. I'll consider it, but it'd be weird. At that point, I'd probably get the quills, because I'd have a whole thing where I'm just ripping stuff from my body and just throwing them at people, and that would be an interesting build. And if I could do like the razor tentacles and like shoot things from that, or use the tentacles or the tail, that would be neat. You have the tentacles and the tails, and they're all, the razor tentacles won't work because they can't grab like hands. Do you need fine manipulation to just kind of vaguely grab something and then throw it? Probably. That's what the tails are for, I guess.
Webbing spray. Level 1, you have spinnerets located on all your wrists. They can spray a long-range blast of webbing to rapidly entangle foes. Your body replenishes the filament used in the webbing over time. You can use these webs for mobility and traps. Level 2, your webbing can be made acidic to melt the before as it entangles them. The webs will be as acidic as corrosive touch level 1. Your webbing can be made non-acidic, as you may not want a web you are hanging from to melt whatever you are perching onto.
I love it. I love this one. I mentioned it before. The mist thing. I mean, this is the same one. You don't even need both. You wouldn't need one to like make your webs all thing, because it has it in level 2. It's perfect. And reading this and now looking at it again, mobility. You got a Spider-Man option? Are you kidding? That's pretty rad. I like it. I could dig it. There's traps. I gotta say, the level 2, it hits me different every time I think about it. And what I mean by that is, holy shit, you get the webs, which are acid, which is incredible. And I think I am spoiled, because also at the same time, I'm like, all it's doing is applying corrosive touch to the webs, which I don't know why. I don't know why it's hitting me in terms of like, I can do without that. And I think it's just because you get so much utility from level 1 for the mobility, the traps, just because it fucking looks neat. I don't know. You get a weird spider aesthetic, and I think webs, when it comes to monsters, it works. You don't need specifically a spider aesthetic. I think that just this generalized goo and webbing and it lends itself to a cocoon, a monster, like a nest. It feels viscerally dangerous, because spiders are dangerous, and we can feel it like those. They're not funnel web. Yeah, funnel web spiders. Right? We see those, and then our animal brain's like, way back 10,000 years ago, there's been such a genetic memory of people just getting their hands bitten and dying immediately that we're fucking terrified. That's up there. That's high up there. And the question is do I want level 2 or not? Because I gotta get level 1.
Sonic Blast. Level 1, you have a melon-like organ in all of your heads, which you can use to release a sonic wave. The sound is able to detect the before from a long distance and sees right through their camouflage. Level 2, your sonic wave is able to be focused into a powerful sonic blast that causes intense internal damage. The focused sonic blast is rather straining on your body to produce, so you'll need to have a short period of time between each use of it.
This doesn't Now, like the jet one, there's might be some synergy with being underwater, maybe that's because of the picture. This would really help to be able to see, to just get a radar of where everybody is around you, so you don't need any extra help. Um, and that would help a lot in the terror causing route, because then if you know where everyone is, you could use something like explosive stacks and set claymores everywhere, which is great. So there is a lot of utility in it. That being said, I don't know if I love it, and especially the second one. Now, my gut reaction is it sucks because it does the killing, but it needs a decent sized recharge, I guess, relative to the other ones, before you can use it again. Thinking about it a little bit more, it's very efficient because if you're able to, well, it's focused. I wonder how focused is it? So it's more focused so that you're able to pierce through things. So I imagine it's able to, the vibrations are somehow able to pierce through a tank and then just gib a guy inside of it. But is it only the tank? Will it like will it gib everyone in a down the street and just rupture all of their organs and make them bleed out their eyes, or is it like one guy per thing? I don't know. I got to imagine, depending on how close they are, maybe it's like a 3-person wide thing. I don't. It's not definitely not the worst. It's definitely not the worst. It's no Morningstar or Spikes, but I'd say it's above Spikes and Morningstar and Razor Tentacles, but it's like next to Electric Flash. It's way below Corrosive Touch, and I might take Incinerate Breath over it, but it's not that high up.
Arcane Blast. Level 1. From your body, you can release a powerful blast of raw energy from the dimension that altered you. It melts the before flesh like chocolate under a hot summer day. It does not hurt fellow residents of the city and is particularly costly to use. Level 2. You can control the arcane blast's direction, striking multiple targets that are not in the line. Instead of not merely hurting your allies, it now also empowers the residents of the city for a time, turning them much deadlier.
So my initial gut reaction is that it is really good in a meta sense. Like the both 1 and 2 are incredible, but I can't wrap my mind, or I couldn't at least, because I thought about it for a second before I recorded this part, and like I couldn't think of a theme that fits with this, and with a little bit more thought, like a weird thing, right? Like in my head, I am thinking like this giant eyeball on this chittering mouth on a really like emaciated, almost like a scholarly body, and it's like constantly twitching, and it's like the head's twitching back and forth and all over, and that's kind of spooky on its own. But what really makes it fucking horrifying is that it's taking these small, staggered, jittery steps, and then it fucking melts your friend to your left, the flesh off of the bone, and he just collapses into a pile of mush. That's fucking horrifying. That if you have an entire build around that, that's fucking cool. And like thinking about that more, I'm like, oh, I could take Sonic Blast with that, and like, how do you get? Okay, so I want to build. I'm gonna build this really quick. Just 6 powers from this. That would be Arcane Blast, Sonic Blast, Corrosive Touch, Claws, Spike. Oh, Corrosive Touch 1, 2, Arcane Blast 1, 2, Sonic Blast 1, 2. Okay, perfect. Not a lot of mobility, not a whole lot of anything, but it's just like melting horrible thing. I said I was gonna make this quick. I fucking lied. So just the ones particularly costly to use. That's really rough. The directions for level 2 is like an Omega Beam sort of thing. It's all right. I'm lying. It's really good. It empowers your friends. It's just not thematic for me. And I care about the theme with the character. It needs to all come together. And that being said, I've picked my 6 for what I want. And so if we've gone with the flyer and the aquatic, I said it before, and I would want this chitinous beetle knight looking thing. It's just this tall, it's like encased in armor almost, and it's just this giant menacing figure. And claws level 1, I need the claws, and webbing level 1. There's so much good in there, and it fits the giant theme. And I'm thinking of the retractable claws. It's almost like a gauntlet on the hand, so it has fingers, but the chitin shoots out and it covers them and becomes these giant maws that just swipe and slash. Jet cutter level 2 for the long range shots, which sound fucking really cool. Plus the electric flesh. It just with all of these other things, there's so many cool things you could do if you have that heightened reaction speed, that like almost bullet time. If it wasn't that high, I'd probably do something else, but like webbing spray level 2, and then how many would I have left? That'd be 1 from that, and then I'd have 1 left. Oh, I don't even know. Sonic Blast level 1, so I can see everything, I think. But electric flesh level 2, maybe just the reaction time, so I'm not just this slow lumbering thing. You'd be able to inflict more terror if you're able to think on your feet a lot quicker, and that's what I'm going for.
You have some unusual abilities. You have 4 choices in this section. Similar to above, you can take the same choice twice to unlock its 2nd level.
Good God, there's more. There's just so, I mean, you're already, there's enough there for a really interesting fucking horror monster. And there's going to be even more. I am excited. Let's go through it.
Illusionist. Level 1. You are able to turn invisible at will. This invisibility is easy to disrupt, and any action more strenuous than a walk will reveal you. You can also create a zone of silence around you, muffling sounds, and allowing you to pick off lone targets without them being able to cry for help. Level 2. You can make a strenuous action or two, such as breaking into a run or making an attack before your invisibility breaks. You can also create mirages of things like doors, open passageways, or even yourself to drive the before into certain areas. You can even use these mirages to make it harder to target you in an open battle.
I've said it before, and I will say it a 3rd, 4th time now. The fucking terror. The terror is what you need to hear, and I mean, this is good. This is real good for that. There's so many different things that you can do. I like the idea of just being able to slowly walk up. There's a bunch of people just kind of standing around, and then you're so strong, you just kind of shove your hand through their chest, like, and just kind of rip out one of their hearts with, and everybody just kind of like looks over and they don't know what the fuck just happened, and they're scrambling to grab their guns and to point it, and assuming you pick somebody in like the middle of something, and then you just go invisible again. And then, I mean, I wonder how much, like, if your hand's bloody or if that goes invisible with you. Like, even, let's assume, like, you don't move. You don't even move. You just kind of stand there. You're not kicking up dust. Presumably, the blood splattering on you just turns invisible and they don't notice that. And, like, the blood pooling around your feet, they're too fucked up to think. Like, they start trying to shoot at you while you're invisible. They start hitting each other. There's so much you can do there. None of them they will never be able to sleep again. Like, assuming they make it out of the city somehow, they're not going to have a good night's sleep. They're going to be fucking horrified. Any creak in the night, it's, holy shit, he's there. My heart.
Shapeshifter. Level 1. You can shapeshift into the form of the before. This allows you to get close to them in order to rapidly shapeshift back and assault them. The before have things like heat sensors to detect if one is human, but your shapeshifting fools those devices as well. Level 2. You can devour the brains of a before in order to gain their memories and mannerisms. This will allow you to flawlessly disguise yourself as one of the before and learn their plans. You can also disguise as inanimate objects, though the object in question must, at least at its smallest, be about the size of one of the before.
This is solid. I dig this one. The shape-shifting application's obvious, like picking off one, becoming him, walking up to Johnson and just kind of sticking your hand to Goroing him in the side, and then, smacking his corpse on another one, breaking their neck. All sorts of fun stuff. I like the brain one. The intel is so devious. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. You can, God forbid, you get you get two friends intimately. You sit next to them, and like you're sitting at a fire. You're on a watch, just you and them, and you start talking about old memories and all sorts of things, and then you start fucking with them, right? Like it's really horrible. It's like, yeah, Janet. I'm sorry to tell you, Janet, she cheated with me. The kid's mine. John, I'm sorry. It's been years. You're cuckold, John. You're cuckold. You raised my child. You raised my fucking kid. He puts his gun to your face. He puts his gun in his mouth because he can't deal with it, and he just fucking blows his brains out. You did it right there. It's fucking horrible. Shapeshifting's neat. In worst case, he goes to shoot you. You turn back, be like, "Gotcha, bitch. He was already dead." This really does feel bad. Like, I'm laughing just because of how, like, immorally awful all of this is. But fuck them. The before suck. They know what they did. They got me with that dimension juice. By the way, which, can we just say real quick, I wish they did it more, but the Arcane Blast, dropping little bits of lore in it, like in some of the description, I wish everyone, or at least like every other one, had stuff like that, just little bits of information about the world. Because like, oh, okay, so now it was a dimensional thing, kind of like the Mist, that did it, that got you all fucked up. Monsterfied. Better, way better. There's nothing fucked up. Fuck the before. They're the freaks. Stupid.
Endure. Level 1. You are enduring and come back from injuries very quickly. You can not only recover quickly enough that small injuries seal almost instantly, but even revive completely from death in about 30 minutes. This allows you to relentlessly attack the before. Level 2. Your regeneration and revival abilities are both increased drastically. You only take 15 minutes to recover completely from death now, and you heal so quickly that you can go from near death to a deadly state in 5 minutes. Your rapid regeneration makes defeating you only a very temporary measure, one that only buys them some reprieve.
I love this one. I want to put 2 points into it and make it have my point babies, because it is, there's nothing worse. I mean, it's inevitable. You're walking death. The Jason Voorhees picture, apt, obviously, because you're just this ever encroaching, and you don't have to be slow. That's the whole thing. You don't have the one fundamental flaw of shitty slasher villains. You have fucking 6 options above, and then potentially 2 more here. It's gross, and I love it, and I would love to have my abdomen explode just for me to fucking drag myself and just break their ankles, because I'm fucked up. No, this seems kind of just really neat. I'm taking 2 of these. There's no question. Doesn't matter if the rest of them are better. I want this one.
Repulsor. Level 1. You passively create a force field around you that slows down anything that tries to strike you. This significantly reduces the kinetic power of the Before's guns, rockets, and other weapons, greatly reducing the harm they can inflict on you. Level 2. You can focus for a brief moment to cause anything coming your way to instead turn around and be sent flying back to their source with twice the amount of force. This brief empowerment of your repulsing ability is quite straining, and there's a brief period in between each use where you cannot activate the upgraded ability.
I mean, this is good if you're a pussy, I guess. No, this is good. It just feels like Endure kind of sidesteps the "don't touch me, bro" sort of thing with this. This would honestly be incredible with the electric shock quick reflexes for the level 2 where you're bouncing things back. But I mean, you're a monster, right? Like if you're fueled by spite or hate or just hurt, you're just so sad they left you, and now you just gotta hit them back. But using a shield to protect yourself seems. I mean, okay, let's be fair. Let's keep an open mind. Assuming you're a very lightweight build, and you don't have the endurance, you don't have the endurer, and you're bouncing back and forth, and then one of them gets a beat on you. You have the force field, stops them. It's not too bad. That's definitely not what I'm going for. So this is going to be a big NO. That's Spanish for no.
Extender. Level 1. You have the ability to stretch your body. You can use this to attack from a greater distance with your close-range natural weapons. The stretchiness of your form makes it harder to injure, as its elasticity allows it to roll with force and absorb impacts. Level 2, you are able to grow your size in order to not just increase the amount that you can stretch, but also increase your physical power and leverage. You can also shrink to fit through cracks and narrow spaces very easily, slipping through cracks as narrow as a few millimeters in order to surprise the before.
This is surprisingly good. Like really good. So in my head, the first thing I think of is getting the tails and the what is it? Those little attacher tendril things with the blades, making those incredibly dangerous. But that's surface level, baby. That's normie tier. We're gonna go deeper. The rolling with the punches. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the something about that, just something going to cave. I mean, you're not going to get in a knockdown brawl with any of these before. They're not going to face you. Maybe if you take a real humanoid form and then you creep up on them and you're just a real fucking ugly son of a bitch and they want to punch you in the face, and then watching their fist extend through the back of your head will be a really neat terror tactic. And then you sort of like that'd actually be really fucking neat. You do that, and then your vertical mouth opens up around where their hand is, and they just lose it, kind of like The Thing, but it's through your head because they punched you. Seems very niche, but it would fucking be horrifying for them. And then you just don't move, and then just kind of like you take Endure and you just deal with it. But level 2 definitely fits with a ton of other builds, and for something that we're doing now, increasing your power to just be even bigger, you're kind of stretching yourself up. And like if it was that alone to where you can, I haven't read or watched One Piece really, so I don't know. I've seen images of the guy getting bigger or something like that. Maybe I don't know if I can get it, but that would be cool enough. That in and of itself as a boosting power up is neat. The millimeter cracks being real smooth, like real tiny, like. That is insanely effective and fucking horrifying. That's God. I keep coming up with it's Plastic Man levels of horseshit to where you're just going through you're winding yourself up. They're putting tape over their wounds. They're wrapping it up. They a couple seconds later, their arm's starting to itch, and they don't realize it's you just wrapped up there, and you're going through their body because you're real thin, going through their little arteries, making your way to their heart, and just kind of ripping yourself out, saying hello my baby, hello my honey in their viscera. Fucking silly. Considering I gotta weigh some of my options here.
Phaser. Level 1. You can phase through solid matter, including living beings. You can easily reach into a Before's chest to crush their heart and walk through their locked doors. This, however, does not work with fast-moving objects like bullets or shrapnel, which can still injure you. Level 2, you have gained the ability to occasionally phase through fast-moving objects, making you more resilient to the Before's weapons. You can also mark a location and reappear at it any time by phasing into the ground. It takes a few moments to phase fully into the ground, but reappearing at the marked spot will be very rapid after you enter the ground.
With this, I get I get what this section is about, and it's like the utility of a horror movie sort of based into these options, and I'm kind of in love with it. Phaser, I think it's great. I love the number one. I love just the walking through walls sort of thing. Like, if we're talking about like superhero powers, I don't care that much. But in terms of a horror movie monster thing, where you're so, like, the odds are so far against the before, that that makes the phaser just so much better. It makes it like you can be anywhere, you can come anytime and with no warning, and you just casually walk. Plus, this mixed with other ones like the what is it? The Illusionist level 1. That's dirty. Level 1 of this plus the Illusionist 1. I think that would go, and that would, you'd be, I mean, if you could, the sound, just totally stop the sound while you're walking through walls and you're invisible, nobody can hear you or see you. It's come through nowhere. I'm not going to suspect anything. Although, really the phaser really depends on whether or not, is it even needed? If you're not making any sound, you can casually walk up and you don't need to. Who knows? Whatever. Level 2, if you're going for Endure level 2, who really cares about the bullets going through? It doesn't, I mean, cool, yeah, if you're not going to get blown to pieces by a tank shell or something, or get blown up. But it's, you'll be back in 5 minutes anyway, and they won't expect it. Now the teleporting. Oh, the teleport option. Something about this I love. I always thought, like, what is it, Kingdom Hearts, when they're walking through those portals, it feels sillier than it should. But this, for some reason, like the idea of you just being lowered into the ground and appearing somewhere else and being a monster just makes it so much more menacing. And it really must help navigating the city. If you have just an area like in the central hub in the center and you need to be somewhere else, you can just pop right back. I'm thinking if I get 4, then I'm gonna do Endure 2. I don't care. It's a 1, 2. Those are 2 of my 4. And the next is going to be Phaser, because the idea of a berserker walking through walls is pretty great. And Shapeshifter. Now, I think the invisibleness is neat, but like the same, like you even said it, the hand. You could put your hand through the chest. And I'm pretty sure with Endure level 2, it might be more intimidating that you're taking all of these huge chunks and bullets taking out of you while you slowly walk up to a guy whose eyes are just getting wider and wider as he's mag dumping right into your chest, and you're not stopping, and it doesn't hurt him. It doesn't hurt him as your fingers slowly, inch by inch, make their way into his chest cavity, and you hear just a small snap, like when you're a child and you're twisting a tooth and you feel the little sinews pop out as you're trying to pull it from your mouth. And that's what he feels in his chest as his heart is slowly ripped from his chest. And he just sees you pull it out. There's no blood except the blood that's pumping from the heart as he sees you pull it. And his knees buckle and he collapses. That would be fucked. And Shapeshifter would just make it more psychologically troubling for them. Or I think there's just more fun stuff to do with that. But if I could get level 2, that would be more my speed. But I think, yes, we're bypassing illusionist things with Phaser, although having no sound would be really great.
Of course, you have some weaknesses. Your transformation seems to have given you a weakness that the before can use against you. You must pick 1. You may pick up to 2 more. Each time you take an extra weakness, you get either 2 extra choices in a weapon section or 1 extra choice in the ability section.
it would be too easy without a weakness section. I love it. There needs to be some hint of hope for them, because with the little bit of hope, you could truly drag them to despair. Or hope might be the only thing to keep them from despairing, which would keep them running and make the terror more effective and viscerally. You feel it. Then maybe if we can get 2 of these, we can get Shapeshifter level 2, so we can get the brains. The Illusionist level 1 as well would be nice, but no, we're gonna go with Shapeshifter level 2. It feels like it fits more, having this big thing. I like to think of the big beetle thing with a faceplate, that when you're gonna go to eat the brains, like it's one of the only times it comes across, and then bam, it opens up to a maw, to where it's just the faceplate, which it looks like one solid seamless piece, breaks apart into 4 almost mandibles. Oh, gross. See, now I'm thinking of like the elites from Halo, but like kind of like that, but better and less sort of things, because that looks ugly and stupid.
Black flowers. There are various dark flowers growing in the city. When these black flowers are crushed, they release a scent irresistible to you. The smell compels you to go to the source and inhale deeply. This compulsion is so powerful that it can even stop you in the midst of a rampage. The black flowers are not particularly common, but they can be plucked and crushed later and will still have the same effect on you.
I like this one because it is both not that bad, the drawback isn't that bad, but if used properly and knowledgeably, it could be, if there was a way to kill me, this would be the way. And I like to think, with the build so far, that there's probably not a good chance that anybody will live long enough to be able to figure that out. But usually I would say this kind of option would be anathema to me, strictly because it is such a chink in the armor, so to speak. But it seems like, a big fucking monster needs its comeuppance eventually. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't do nothing. I'm the victim here. All right, these fucking before they experimented on me. It's not my fault.
Faith. Whatever religion you had as a before, be it Abrahamic, dharmic, or something else, you gain a psychological fear of the before wielding its symbols or religious utterings. A before has to genuinely believe in the same faith as you in order to scare you off with it. However, the rarer the religion is in the world, the more powerful its effects. A Sikh would flee from the Khanda. A Christian would only recoil back from the crucifix.
So I'm the type of guy who doesn't love mixing the religion in with the horror monster things. It feels, I don't know, like it takes something away from it. It feels, I don't know, there's this otherworldliness, and maybe it's this internal consistency and logic of the world, like something that would allow these vile things wouldn't. It seems incongruous with your average faith, like monotheistic Western sort of Christianity, Judaism, Islam. All like there's things like Jinn and what is it, like Hinduism. You have all sorts of stuff going on, which maybe, but it doesn't feel. It takes something away from it, I think, and so with this, it's going to be a hard pass from me. It has just nothing to do with my personal faith or philosophy. Just not feeling it with my monster thing.
Hey, lover. You take your time killing the before, torturing them slowly instead of killing them in a quick manner. This tendency can occur even in the midst of attacking a large group of the before, giving them time to attack you while you torture one of their companions. You also have a strong compulsion to move towards screams of pain from the before, and that can be used to lure and bait you.
I'm torn on this. Now, on one hand, personally, I don't I'm not a sadist. I don't like the idea of actively hurting other people to cause just misery. I don't like it. That being said, it feels like it would fit, especially with the way I've been talking through this video. It feels like it works. Like it seems like something like it's black flowers just innate within you in terms of just being something that it's just part of what you're already doing almost, right? It really depends on how cold and calculated you want to be murdering the before. And I think at least to a certain point, you're already pretty heated. I guess it goes from, I think this is the this is the problem. Listen, I may be a fucking killer, but I'm not a sadist. I'm not, I'll show the guy his heart, and I might enjoy the look of despair in his eyes as he, gets there, but I don't like that he hurts. I made it quick. It's not like I impaled the dude. I mean, I did, but not because it hurt, because he fucking had it coming. Came to my goddamn house after turning me into this fucking thing with I don't have nipples anymore. All right, sure. I wasn't using them, but I might.
Light sensitive. Your city is dark and overcast, though you have no issue seeing in it. However, the lights of the before, artificial in nature, will cause a negative effect on you with this weakness. You move more slowly, have a hard time seeing, and will be easier to flee from or attack. For the 4's artificial light to have significant effect, though, it will have to be fairly bright and will either be cumbersome or drain the battery quickly.
So, two minds. I don't hate this one so much, but because of what it is in a theoretical sense. I like what it does to your sort of living. I want to say play style, but how you are as a person. What I don't like it is, for me, like I would hate this. This is crippling to you. This makes you what I am in real life, which I don't, you're stuck inside staring at a screen all day, every day, because life has you stuck working from home in a job where you're just staring at a screen until you're no longer staring at a bad screen, so you could stare at the good screen, so you could keep staring at the screen and look at the screen and not go outside in the sun. Yeah, so I wouldn't want to, have that ruin my monster power fantasy thing.
Music. When music is played by a living before, either sung or on an instrument, it produces a calming effect upon you. You lose any desire to attack the before and begin retreating. If you are attacked while one is calming you with music, you will gain the desire to kill the before again. You cannot be affected by recordings of music by the before, only with their voices or instruments. Some instruments, however, can be very, very loud.
I really love this one, and I think I might be a softie. Just the whole idea of this beast, like it affects more of your bestial nature, that you are soothed by the calming, loving, almost feminine music to where it's like, oh, okay, I'm lulled into it until some fucking jagoff with more balls than brains shoots you, and then he fucking kills everyone. This is fun, and I think it's a means for you to not be purely invincible, but it's also it's like the opposite of the light. It's super non-crippling, and like, what are the odds that anybody who's coming to your city, your fucking ghost town filled with monsters, is going to be just singing unless they somehow already know that that's your weakness? Not very likely. Also, I didn't think about the recording thing. That's such an incredible like, if the recordings worked, that'd be dangerous. That'd be really dangerous. That's a great way to just fuck you. But if it's only live music, ooh, son.
Homeward. There is an area in the city that you call home. Every 24-hour period, you must return to this area and not leave for about 6 hours. This area is about the size of a house. You can do whatever you wish in this area, but you cannot leave for the 6 hours, even if you are being attacked from outside of the reach. You cannot change the area that you must return to, although it is the land area you must stay on, not any structure.
Oh, I hate this one a lot. This is awful. Like you're 6 hours of every day. You're just kind of stuck at one place one time. This monster thing feels like freedom, like true freedom. I mean, I assume you're staying in your city generally. I mean, you could leave, but why would you want to? But like just to be shackled to that every single day, that really does sound like a weakness and an unpleasant one at that.
Dormancy. Every 24-hour period, you must rest for about 4 hours. But dormancy leaves you quite vulnerable, as you cannot move very much while dormant. You will not even revive until after the dormancy ends if you are fatally injured. You can, however, trap an area before you must go dormant, and if you can rely on some of your allies in the city to help protect you while you rest.
Shit sucks, and I don't even. I mean, like having them protect. Like if I'm gonna die, and then I am revived 4 hours later. Who cares? This sucks as bad as Homeward. You're just kind of every part of your day is lame. So, but I can understand this one sort of thematically, and I guess if I'm being generous, I fucking hate Homeward. I can see that one too, in like a spider egg clutch thing. But for this one, if you're just like this big beast and you return, wherever you need to rest, I get it. Animals need to rest. If you're more animalistic than a humanoid, that might work. But for me, rubs me wrong.
Chosen ones. Some of the before seem to cause you to fumble and fail. You make mistakes more often, seem to slow down a bit to match their feeble pace, and don't seem to fatally wound the before as often. These before are generally leaders and elites, not the rank and file ones. You can still kill these chosen ones if they make a mistake, but it is significantly harder to do so.
I don't mind the idea of having like one person be especially challenging out of a bunch of chaff. Like that's interesting. Having like a boss before to fight who's always pretty good. But what I hate about this one is that it takes the agency out of your hands. You're effectively waiting for them to fuck up for you to maybe sneak out a win. But for the most part, they're gonna get whatever they want accomplished, and you're constantly being hamstrung. And it makes and so all about agency, right? You didn't have agency with the falsely imprisoned, if that's the story, and this feels like it's just twisting those screws. Which, hey, if you want to like deal with suffering, that might work, but I don't dig that. So we have black flowers and music, so that's going to be our main danger zone, and then our second one for extra buff is going to be Shapeshifter 2, so we can get those sweet brain deets and info and sort of get those memories and mannerisms and do a really sick impression.
The before are here. You see the disgusting before. They are armed with certain type of weapons and seem to be here to take what is not theirs to be taken. Which group of before have entered your home?
Alright, let's go into who the antagonists are in this. Who we're going to have to deal with. Who we're going to have to slap around.
The PTF. The PTF, or Paranormal Task Force, is an organization devoted to containing the abnormal. They seek to put you and all of your companions into cells for them to study and take out of the hands of other organizations. The PTF have large torpedo-like devices. When jammed into the earth, anchor reality around it. The devices can interfere with your abilities, making them work less efficiently, or even not at all. The PTF has a great deal of experience in dealing with otherworldly creatures. They are cautious of any threats and move slowly and methodically through your home in order to contain everything they can.
Oh, they seem pretty neat and threatening. They feel from the get-go like they are like almost the default monster hunters, and I like that. I like the challenge that they seem to pose. they're definitely up there in the running. I don't really have much to say outside of them trying to put me in the cell is an especially great motivation to want to fuck them up. If you learn about that, right? Like, let's say they capture somebody else, and then you see that they're not only is it the before coming into your house to fuck with you after what they did, but now they're trying to redo it. Oh, hell hath no fury.
The military. The government made a mistake. Now they are sending in the military to kill anything that is dangerous and capturing anything they can use as living weapons to bolster their military might. The military has greater firepower than the other before. High-powered rifles, vehicle-mounted cannons, and guns and dangerous explosives are all things they wield. It is best to respect their weaponry. This organization is also one with the greatest in sheer numbers, drawing upon large reserves to man their heavy weaponry. Their numbers will make killing all of them quite a chore.
I actually very much dig this one. Now, the PTF was good, and it feels like they're a smaller, relatively smaller organization, to where this is like the chaff out the ass, and they're just trying to hammer you hard. Now, I wonder how often they're going to be coming in, how many waves of people they send. Like, maybe some guys at first, and the more they have to deal with, the more they just keep sending them in. The fear with the military is that at some point they might try to nuke it, but you ain't nuking spooks, so that doesn't work. Can't kill these boys. You're not gonna knock down all of our beautiful towers. Then we'll live in the rubble. We'll rebuild. But yeah, no, it seems like you have more normal people those terror tactics will affect more, and that seems better, more fun. So right now it's the military followed closely by the PTF.
The Shadow Hand. A paramilitary organization, the Shadow Hand captures creatures like yourself and sells them to the highest bidder. They see you as an asset to be sold and are motivated by greed and selfishness. The Shadow Hand has many psychics. These psychics can attack your mind in a variety of ways. They can cause seizures, make your body go limp, or even attempt to take control of your mind. Though they lack reality anchoring devices like the PTF, the Hand has a great deal of experience with paranormal beings as well. They are vigilant and quite observant of incoming threats.
I don't particularly dig this one. They seem less fun to fight. It's not that they're it's not because they're an actual threat, and they feel like an actual threat. They feel far more annoying to deal with as opposed to the other two. It's just that a lot of the fantasy of this, at least that that I see it leaning towards, is missing from dealing with these sons of bitches, because it's a far more touch and go thing, and they want to grab you and take you away from your city, where the rest of these fuckers just want to kill you. And that's fine, because you'll just come back and you're just this constant, ever-present threat. Which, okay, maybe it's like Jason X. You just keep killing him, doesn't matter where he is, he's coming back. But it doesn't feel as good as, let's say, like dealing with the military. However, I do wonder if, like, how much more satisfying it would be to watch one of these guys break and run than just your average guy, because these guys have so much more experience being the one to shatter them. A small little badge of honor.
The survivors. Rather than the before entering your city, it seems they've survived the event and are leaving it. They would destroy your home and bring the attention of the other groups if they left, so you must slaughter them. The survivors have watched you and your allies for a long time. These before have learned of any weaknesses the city denizens have, and will be more than willing to use them in order to defeat you. The organization is led by several strong and smart leaders. They must be clever to have survived for so long in the city. and will use said cleverness to play every card in the deck to survive.
Now, these are, I feel like, the only ones who would really make use of the music thing. Maybe the Shadow Hand might guess at some point, and they definitely would figure out the flowers. Like the military and the PTF might do it by accident, but it really feels like the survivors will figure out the music, they'll figure out the flowers, and then they would also, they would be the only ones clever enough to put you in a trap long enough to escape, which is really what they're going for, which is something that I wouldn't like. So it feels almost like an objective based video game to where you're constantly trying to, instead of a fighting thing, you're always trying to slap down anybody on the edges or anybody trying to get to the edges. I don't hate it if that was the only thing you're doing, but with the military and the PTF, they're at spot number 3. So it's going to be the military, because they are going to deal with all manner of horseshit.
You have friends as well. But before are in for a surprise once you and your allies give them a warm welcome. Pick 4 allies. The Mist. This thick, clinging haze encompasses the entire city that you call home. For the before, this mist is a harbinger of death. It is hard to see through, and it seeps through the gas masks to cause illness, excess coughing, shortness of breath, fatigue, and occasional nosebleeds and vomiting. Worse still for the invaders, the mist can solidify parts of itself into whip-like tendrils that end in hooks. The mist will use these to aid you in attacking the before, dragging weaker members off to be butchered. For you, the mist offers no illness, and you can even see through it perfectly fine. The mist will sometimes form tentacles near you that will make sounds indicating they desire to be pet or roped like a dog.
I love it. I love it so much. Just it's really not what I expected when you see the mist. I think of it, at least I originally thought it was going to be some sort of solid, I don't know, some weird Silent Hill thing to where it fuck with their brain, but this threw me for a loop. The actual, like, slowing the before down and taking, just the fatigue and the shortness of breath, that alone, if that's all it did, that'd be really rough on them. Like, 'cause the only thing they really have is their alertness, right? And if they need to move and they can barely breathe, that'll get you. But occasional vomiting, so that presumes nausea of some kind, which is just the worst. Let's just take a tangent. Like, nausea is one of the worst things a human can deal with, being alive. Oof. And the dog, it's a dog. I love it so much. I want this thing. I want a mist dog. So I think, yeah, no, this is up there. It's only the first one. Let's fucking go.
The crows. Their feathers and skin barely hide a chittering and quivering mass of chitin. The crows watch the before with dark intent. Their sharp eyes will let them see their movements, and their sensitive ears can hear their plans. They will report all to you so that you may prepare. In combat, the crows can make good distraction, though cannot cause much harm to the before. Their avian-like form is merely a larval stage. After you slay the before, a crow can burrow into the corpse and pupate for a time. They will emerge a massive armored-like creature with sharp mandibles and sharper claws to aid you better in killing the before. As adults or larvae, the crows are good conversationalists. They particularly enjoy discussing topics of self-improvement and philosophy.
I feel like the crows were made for me. Just at the get, I'm picking them, so we can just end it. Just jump to the next one. So first off, corvids are rad crows, and then just ravens, which are just huge crows and really intelligent birds. They're beautiful, jet black or whatever. But they're like pseudo crows, and they're weird insectoid things underneath the fur. So they're kind of like a mix, which is pretty rad. And then they burrow in like little parasites, and then after eating the insides, they grow out to be these giant insectoid monsters, these anvil looking things. What are they called in D&D? Under something starts with a U. It doesn't matter. Just these giant umber hulks. That's it. And then, what do they like to talk about in their free time? That these fucking things are intelligent enough to talk and converse with you, which in and of itself is great, because one would imagine there's a ton of crows, just entire murders of them flying by. If there's anything like places around the U.S. that have a lot of crows, they're fucking in massive numbers. And so they're into self-improvement philosophy. Now, listen, this isn't about me. Kind of. I really dig both, just generally, philosophy. It's great, the love of wisdom and self-improvement, sort of constantly bettering yourself. It's like, yeah, I might be shit today, but maybe I'll be less shit tomorrow. These birds, just right up my alley, taking them.
An enormous mass of rolling black molasses blots out a notable section of your city. Any before foolish enough to draw near will find masses extending out to grasp and digest them. The ooze moves through the city steadily, rendering any area within its mass impossible for the before to enter. Their weapons do nothing to damage it, not even their flamethrowers. As the ooze moves about the city, it leaves behind a residue. This liquid evaporates over time, and as it does, it causes the before to forget things about the denizens of the city. The before can fall repeatedly into traps if they do not block the ooze's secretions. The ooze does not harm you. It does not digest you and freely lets you move through its mass. Through gestures, it has expressed a desire to bathe you.
So there's a few things about this. I thought the mist was going to be like this, so it took me by surprise. The weird mental thing to where it makes them forget would be really interesting. It seems like you can keep them in like a perpetual state of heart attack, of terror until they have a heart attack. So that's neat. It's the fact that it's impervious to damage is horrifying. If you're a before. The one thing and the huge drawback into why I know I won't be able to take it is the crows. It goes and eats their bodies. It subsumes them and disintegrates them, and it just can't have my boys not have their bods. That just seems, it's unfair to the crows. Also, weird fetish bait, just straight up, it wants to bathe you. Ooh. You gotta get in the crevices. My colon needs to be squeaky clean. Fucking vile.
The Dream Eaters. Any before who sleep in your hometown will sometimes find themselves never waking up. The Dream Eaters are translucent entities and can walk through walls as if they were air. When before fall asleep near them, the Dream Eaters can feed off of their psyche, causing them to irreversibly become vegetables. All before need to sleep, and Dream Eaters can invoke drowsiness in the before who stand watch. As their eyelids grow heavy, Dream Eaters can move to cripple their sleeping companions. When the drowsiness fades, the Watchers will find their allies not much more than sacks of meat. The Dream Eaters are quite social creatures, but are high-browed. They prefer artistic pursuits like poetry, stories, and paintings. If you pursue such things, they will be critical, but legitimately helpful.
So, in the beginning, they're interesting. They're not, like, directly the first thing I think of. But, it's a haunted, sort of cursed city, so that does make sense. You have a bunch of horrifying ghost maidens, like, what is it? Bloody Mary? Look how hard I could piss, sort of thing, which is great. That's exactly what she looks like, and hopefully the rest of them look somewhat similar. The thing I do like, the more I'm thinking about it, is that she's going and she turns them into a vegetable, which is perfect for my crow boys. I don't know if you can tell a theme coming, but And honestly, the more I'm looking at this, it feels like the monster, I guess, is so like an unrelenting force that the rest of these friends, companions, whatever, are more I'm more interested in the day to day rather than anything they can do for me here. So when you get to the part where they talk about the social creatures but are highbrow and that they're really into art, I fucking love that. I am a troglodyte as far as I'm as dumb as anyone, but I do like and appreciate art and the evocation of emotion. And I don't know a thing about it, but I'll go and I'll stand in a museum for hours and look at things and see how it makes me feel and try to pull it apart. And so to try to be less of a fucking Neanderthal, that would be great to have my own personal art critics there who are in a friendly ways like, hey, my dude, your thing is garbage. Try to do better. Like, oh, okay. What's garbage about it? This looks like Rob Liefeld's feet. What are you doing? Like, there's the perspective's terrible. And then it's, kind of snowballs out from there. And sooner or later, I'll be a giant monster who can who could draw with perspective and not make it look like a fucking 10-year-old's mess. So they're high. If everything else is on the same track, though, it's going to be a real toughie.
The labyrinth. The before tend to draw maps when moving through an area. That will be useless here. The structure and layout of your city will alter itself to prevent the before from knowing where to go. Walls appear where streets were to cut off routes, and new streets lead the before into deadly zones. The labyrinth will aid you, will open shortcuts for you to move quickly, and if you are aquatic, it can reroute waterways to flood an area and empower you. The labyrinth can even collapse buildings with the before inside. It takes a great deal of time for the labyrinth to repair buildings, so it does so only rarely. The labyrinth leaves written messages of encouragement for you often punctuating the message with smiles. If you write back, you will be very happy.
How can you have so many winners, one after another? I love this too. What can I say? It's the city is alive to help you with the labyrinth, and it's true. Like, why would you ever want to leave? You have your good friends. You got your crow boys. You have your your art hose. That's what they are. They're art hose. And now you have the your dog and your labyrinth, and you're happy. These four seem perfect, and the writing back, and especially for the build that I have so far with the rerouting waterways, which is an incredible boon at any time. Yeah, I wonder how you would communicate with it. That would be interesting. Maybe you can go through the crows and have the crows be your mediary between talking to everybody else. Unless if it is the city, then you can just yell or talk and it'll hear you because it's everywhere around you. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. It actually, hell, never mind. The labyrinth might be the mediary because you can speak to the labyrinth. It can go and then write notes on random walls or whatever. The crows can read it because crows are super intelligent, and then they can tell literally anybody else. That's pretty sweet. So right now, the only two that I'm 100% certain on are the labyrinth and the crows. The ooze is going to be a close but no can do, and the mist and dream eaters are right up there.
The children. Vague memories of youth as a before flash as you see the children. Small, almost insignificant looking, yet deadly they are. The children have the ability to create an effect in any before who sees them, causing them to believe that the children are friends from their childhood, and tricking them into following them. The children are excellent at luring before into traps. Their ability to affect the minds of the before is extremely strong. and only the very strong-willed before can resist it. They are not very resilient, though, and their mind-warping powers do not affect any before seeing them through technology, such as drones. Thus, it would be in your best interest to be the shield to their knife. The children enjoy frolicking and playing simple games in their spare time. You can join, of course.
I don't want no chitrin. Yeah, no, thank you. None of these. These are just, they seem so by far the worst out of everything so far. Like, yeah, no, the children might be better if you had, let's say, the survivors, the people who live in the city, or you're dealing with the chosen one. They might help to throw them off their game, but no, all this is an extra sort of a burden on this freedom LARP, and that just sounds unpleasant. And like everything they do, you don't need, at least not for my build. It just seems like a no thankies from McSpankies. I don't need this lodestone around my neck. Let's move on to the next one.
The statues. The statues that adorn the city are no mere inanimate objects. The before seem to hear them whispering and see visions of the statues dancing, beautiful and lovely. Their presence drives obsession into the before slowly. Only weaker-willed before are susceptible, but once they succumb, they become explosives. The statues can control when those who succumb will explode, and seem to be able to tell when it is the best time to do so. The explosives are extremely powerful, and can wound an entire squad of before with its radius. These stone tempters seem to move about the city, as you will notice the same ones in different areas. They don't seem to ever move in sight of others, though. The statues seem quite friendly, and like to leave small handmade gifts for you, and may ask you to clean them in return.
So the statues aren't nearly as bad as the children, but they're still a far cry from, let's say, the labyrinth. The explosions being as big and as large as they are is a really great benefit, and being able to fuck with their heads like that helps a ton. But also, I think the major drawback, like this would at least be a contender for, let's say, the art hose, but their personality doesn't seem to be really anything. Like, it doesn't tell you, they don't want to do anything, they don't have any ambition. I don't care. Like, cleaning them would be fine. That's a fine thing, I guess. Handmade gifts, yeah, that's sweet, but not like it's cute in the same way like the kids when they're cute, but I don't want to just play with random kids, and I don't want to the statues would probably look cool, look terrifying, but you give me a bunch of gold a little bit ago, and now you're leaving me with these remnants. Let's hope the rest of them are better.
The abominations. Fast and agile, the abominations are natural hunters. They move so quickly that they can reliably find the before simply by manually checking every spot they can see. The abominations gain their speed from their abnormal lightness. They are so light that they have trouble killing the before, as they do not have enough weight behind their strikes. The abomination, however, carry an extremely debilitating plague on their claws, one that weakens the before immensely. They thus use hit-and-run tactics, slowly weakening groups of before for you to defeat. The abominations are also armored and much harder than their lean frames would suggest. They enjoy playing tabletop and card games in their spare time, and don't mind you joining in.
Ooh, lad, now we're right back to the top again. And here's where my lowbrow knuckle dragon comes in, because that sounds like fun. I can't say no. Like, you, in such a weird, miserable world, to have a semblance of culture and art and games and actual friends to hang out with sounds immensely appealing to me. So, and I mean, and that's just that alone is great. But and then you take into account all the other really rad shit that you can do with a bunch of really light and agile skirmish units. I mean, these guys, these are your skirmish units. You have them mixed with, let's say, the crows, and you have them constantly going in and just jabbing at them and weakening them down, just kind of slowly crippling their numbers without, dying or taking too much damage thanks to their armor, which would be really great. And then you have they're so preoccupied with that, the labyrinth is like leading them down right towards you, just ready for the killing. It's perfect. It's an embarrassment of riches. But I do have a question. The cards, I imagine you can get like the 52 deck of cards anywhere, but tabletop games sort of stuff, like where are they getting that? Do they have like a Games Workshop or something in the city that they're just kind of pilfering from? Do they have the crows go out and pick stuff up? Do they have an amassed allotment of 3D printers? Are we making like tiny little shitty figurines? I mean, a game's a game and all, but it's just something I'm thinking about. And then so here's the question though. We guess we can go into it later, but this is number 5. Who's gonna give up their spot and what's left? That's not good.
The singers. The before best beware any lovely singing maid are in the city. Hideous to the week before, the singers built wondrous music for all to enjoy, before and resident. But for the before, they will steadily suffer internal injuries as the song pulses through them. Worse, any injuries they already have will fester and become putrid, and they will slowly and steadily crumble apart. The singers ensure that you will come out on top more often than not in battle of attrition. The singers need to be close enough for the deadly songs to work on the before, and can be driven off if you do not distract the before. Their songs will not harm you or your neighbors at all, and you will find their singing hauntingly beautiful. They are competitive and often ask who you think sings better.
These guys seem like fun. There's not a single thing I dislike about these. It's really good. They sound, the utility in a fight, I guess the buff sounds really great. You're slowly whittling them away. I love the competitive spirit. It's the only problem is that they just don't feel, if I had like 6 companions, definitely take them. But it's not up to the other 4. And maybe the mist, but the fact that the mist is both a dog and the mist, it's not quite there. And it's unfortunate because the singers seem pretty cool.
The Unravelers. These allies of yours are particularly confusing to look at for long periods. They lack the means to directly harm the before, but have other methods of aiding you. The Unravelers can alter reality to a degree. They can cause the bullets of the before to mysteriously fade away mid-flight, or decrease the space between you so that you can rend them in close quarters. They can even teleport some important before away in order to separate your group. The Unravelers are extremely intelligent and can come up with some clever tactics to defeat the before. The Unravelers, however, cannot participate directly in killing, as they do not have any means of directly hurting the before. Their intelligence and arrogance has left them very socially awkward, and sometimes ask you for help in this regard.
So as strange as they look, they are way more strange in how you would want to use them, I think, and use in a very friendly sort of general term. These are your buds. You don't use your friends. You would use them with like the statues, the children, maybe the labyrinth, to really, those I think are the only way that you make those other 2 viable, is that you have the Unraveler sort of take the main character option if you use them as a main enemy, or the survivors or something. That's the only way this seems to work in my head. But having them as a just a companion, which feels like a main thing, right? These are the only people you're really going to be talking to, unless you're used to and enjoy being the mediator between people who are somehow more autistic than you. It might be a little bit more burdensome, and if you've ever talked to other people who are actually intelligent, who aren't troglodytes like yours truly, intelligence without wisdom can lead to just fucking annoyance. and it, like, you can get why, like, dealing with a very intelligent social autist is frustrating, to say the least. So while it might seem really cool, like, oh yeah, no, it's just like more highbrow, like the Dream Eaters. No, you can maybe not be the most intelligent person and still have good taste while being really intelligent and just being a cunt to be around. So I would consider it. They're definitely up there with everything, even though it kind of sounds like I'm underselling them, but definitely not in the top 4, like, immediately.
The controllers. While controllers cannot leave water, only a fool would think themselves safe on land. Their long tendrils can extend great distances to attack the before near water. The controllers do not crush or whip, but instead jab the before with their pointed tentacles, breaking the tips off inside. Once inside, it will burrow deep and allow the controller to puppet the body. Those they enslave will appear no different from other before, and can be used in a variety of ways. The controller can make them lead others into traps, give vital information, or as covert assassins. They have particularly notorious evil laughs, belching them out when a plan succeeds. The controllers are fond of making puppet shows and make excellent voice actors. They would love an audience like yourself to enjoy their works.
So I really dig these on multiple different levels. Now, used with the labyrinth or these, I think you could fill and flood this city mostly and have way more waterways than one would think with how this prompt is played out. So, and that way, they would be far more useful in navigating the city and actually being usable. Having the unravelers around with this sort of to make better plans and to use them more properly and maybe to filter people around them sounds great. And also put them in the toilets. Just occasionally just have them around where, somebody needs to go and take a piss. Bada bing, bada boom. You get one, they puppet them. It's over. And that's where the problem, I think, primarily lies with me with this, is that if while I have the aquatic sort of body for the monster, and would make way better use of the controllers, this seems like it's an entire build based around that, right? The labyrinth, the unravelers, the controllers, and then anything else. And then maybe even making your body being very aquatic that works in tandem. And that's just, I just don't want to do that right now. The crows, the labyrinth, the mist, it just sounds, or the abominations and the Dream Eaters, it just sounds way better. And that being said, it is kind of a shame because the idea of having these almost little psychotic, evil laughing worm puppet monster parasites using presumably the corpses of the before to make really silly early season 1 through 3 South Park style puppet shows where it's just crude and hilarious. It sounds like a goddamn shame to not use.
The Eviscerators. The The Eviscerators are ideal frontline soldiers. They are strong, resilient, and possess sharp claws for use in close quarters. Their blue eyes can unleash beams of deathly cold, freezing and shattering the flesh of the before. The Eviscerators are also amphibious and can ambush the before from waterways and use them to quickly navigate the city. While well balanced, these large-eyed allies of yours lack any other special abilities and will rely on you for any other trickery or subterfuge. The Eviscerators are particularly useful against foes that strike at weakness, as they have none to truly exploit. The Eviscerators enjoy sporting activities and would not mind if you wish to join them.
Damn, they sound really great, and it is where to start. So with the having them as a sort of chunky tank-like wall can be super useful in any sort of, hammer and anvil tactic, right? You keep a ton of the before distracted. Maybe hell, even use them. You could just play general. Up top, you're standing, you're watching from above, and you send your solid line of eviscerators at them, taking a lot of fire, blasting them with ice beams, which, by God, is, out of all the silly fucking magic schools, I love cryokinesis so much. There's something about it, the utility of making things along with the sharpness of shards of ice and all other shit like that, and the slowly draining, sapping the will to fight away from things. Mwah! Fantastic. Chef kiss. You have those. You have the claws. They're just they're going, taking them. And then you have the abominations going from the sides, hitting on their flanks, hitting them in the back, and you just have them sort of constantly skirmishing, smashing them, sapping them, and watching the eviscerators tear them to pieces. Not just that. So far, everything else here has been artistic pursuits, and I love it. Don't you get me wrong. The crows, dream eaters, abominations, all, hell, even the controllers. There's always a bit of artistry to it. I love it. The singers, mwah. These are the only ones who'll be like, hey, you want to go rock wall climbing with me? You want to go scale a building? You want to go do some random stuff like that? Throw a ball with your clawed hands? Maybe? Hell yeah. Let's go do it. There's nobody else here to do it with me. And that kind of breaks my heart just a wee bit. Because they have all of these things. And it's just, they're so good. But that niche is kind of taken by the abominations because of the armor plating. They can take, I imagine, somewhat similar punishment. Now, they don't have the ranged eye attacks, and they are super light, so you don't really have a giant wall. But that's what I'm for. That's what the monster is for. That's what the Endure level 2 is for. To be able to take the punishment and not have to worry about any sort of major casualties from any of the other residents here. And it sucks. And if there was a way to get a fifth, I think they would definitely be the fifth. And hell, it might even be the fourth. And this is what hurts. I guess not the fourth. They're up for the fourth, about the fifth or sixth. And I think they would be the fifth. So to get to the point, I know what I want. And unfortunately, so the tier list is going to go like this. We're just going to fucking knock them out. Children, get the hell out of here. The statues, I don't want to see you around. No, thank you. The singers, you're cool, you're great, but no, sorry. The ooze, you seem like you'd be fun. You seem like you'd cause just terror going through the city. But no. Unravelers, too autistic for me right now. Hit me up in high school. Maybe I would have been able to help. Can't do it. The controllers, oh, so fun, so weird, and mischievously wacky. It's not going to be there. The mist. Ooh, it hurts. Oh, goddamn. It hurts. I hate to say it. I love the dogs. I love my mist dog. I love all of the the debuff, the horrible shit that goes with it. Oh, it would be so nice. It would be so nice. Recreate Silent Hill with the mist. No. Sorry. The Eviscerators. Oh, it hurts. They're great. Fantastic. So many things. I literally just said it. We're taking the Dream Eaters. Number 4. The Abominations. Number 3. Number 2 is the Labyrinth. And number 1 are those goddamn crows. I think I've elaborated about why, but I do think that they are kind of like the dream team in terms of utility and just out of companionship. Really, the Dream Eaters art hose are mostly there for the companionship, and the problem here is that for the rest of them, I don't know how the Abominations and the tabletop game stuff is going to be, and their utility is so good that it evens it out. The crows, while they can speak philosophy and talk about personal fitness and all these other things, it doesn't get you. There's still this other area of expertise to where these art hose, they have a high brow. They have the ability to constantly critique you and get better. And you're not getting that. You don't have the internet to post your shit, have people call you an idiot, and then just kind of beat yourself up and make yourself better, get tempered by that. You have them, and they're pretty much all you're ever going to get, presumably, unless there's some other options. But for now, that's all I'm seeing. So and then the Labyrinth is pure utility, and it's friendly. It's a friendly little fucking walls. It's the city itself. Mwah, it's great. And, the crows. Who the fuck doesn't like crows?
There are some others like you. While most of your neighbors and allies will be tribes of similar beings, there are some who are like you in that they are unique, one-of-a-kind beings with abilities unique to them. Pick 2 companions.
All right, so the other ones were just friends, and these ones are companions. So you have your own little close-knit group. Let's see what we have.
Roanoke. Cut here, attach there. Good. This one should be ready for the muscle growth chemical infusion. The last one exploded, but that's because it was only made from one before. This one is 3 stitched together, so it should be able to handle it. Help me hold him still. I need to hit a very precise spot.
An intellectual type, Roanoke's body has numerous thin cutting appendages and stingers. As they are all rather fragile, he does not use them in combat, but instead to cut and dissect them before, then stitching them back together into something very beautiful. Then he revives them with chemicals he injects and alters their form further. These servants of his make for powerful allies. Occasionally, Roanoke will join you in battle, using various chemicals to empower and heal you. However, this soft-bodied ally of yours dislikes having to fight himself. Roanoke is a talkative companion, one that often rambles on his experiments. He is very cautious and pragmatic around the before, and always is concerned for your safety.
I think I like Roanoke. He seems like an interesting fellow. I imagine he'd have a lot of things to say, being a bit of a surgeon and a flesh shaper. I wonder, in terms of like efficiency, doing anything in the world, having him just sit there to be able to buff you and then send out chaff to help you. I mean, probably better than just chaff. People, other before who are around the same caliber as your friends seem, that seems like a really good boon. If I did pick Roanoke, I would probably need the opposite, so somebody who gets in the thick of it with me, just so you have a decent balance of both. Somebody stays back, buffs you, and then somebody who can get their hands dirty. I really do like that he's a talkative companion. Just being able to go back and forth with people and argue, and that is it's a good pastime because that's how you're able to work through ideas with friends and writing them down and being able to verbally articulate them helps really form ideas. And having somebody there, especially once your mind has been morphed and changed into this other form, having somebody that you can talk to like that, like a particular person, not just these giant gaggle of friends, somebody who really understands. I would imagine they intimately know it because they're as unique as you, but that also might make their frame of thought far more alien. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like how much of our thought process is formed by our bodies, is formed by the way that, you know, we experience the world through our hands and our senses. So something like that, where they have these sort of extra senses and their nervous system's all fucking different because it's this weird gelatinous eldritch tentacle monster thing. It must make your point of view of the world a lot different, which, you know, is a good thing. It's got to be really interesting, but I wonder how much different that would make them, like how little you would be able to relate to them. Probably not that much, but it would be an interesting continual course of discussion.
Slatra? Wow! Look, a whole squad of before. The last group was so slow. Playing tag with them wasn't fun at all. But maybe we can play a different game this time. Let's see. Oh, I know a good one. How about how many organs I can pull out in one strike? I think that'll be more fun, don't you think?
Swift and agile describes Slatra well. Her speed is enough that the before often have difficulty shooting at her, and she possesses great strength, an extendable tongue, and very sharp claws to rip them apart. Her small size, only 4.5 feet tall, makes her very difficult to hit and hides the sheer speed at which she can move at. Slatra's small size does make her less resilient, and she'll usually rely on others to help with weapons that are harder to avoid, such as explosives or sonic weapons that can stun her. Slatra is bubbly and cheerful and likes to share her enthusiastic aura with others around her. She is a bit of an airhead, though, and sometimes can act without thinking.
God damn it, I did these fucking quotes months ago, and I totally forgot what they sound like. Jesus. Anyway, it's Slatra seems pretty fun. I think that having a really positive attitude in that sort of situation would help create a sort of a new, more upbeat environment, because I could see very much with all of the bitterness and resentment towards the before, how it can be a pretty dour atmosphere, and having somebody who's a fucking airhead, you know, I'd change that around a bit. If you were a bit faster, you know, have you like a shock, so somebody equal the speed and quickness of it, maybe having like the tendril build to sort of set and lay traps, and then immediately just slice and dice any before they even, you know, just get the drop on them. I could see that where that would be really good. Or you're tanking them, and, you know, Slatra and the rest of the other friends come and flank them and just eviscerate them while you're in the front tanking and just spanking them. I don't know if, I mean, I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate Slatra. It's up there. I I like Runak a lot more. But, you know, and this might be a good trifecta. You have the tank, you have the buffer, and then you have the fast and hard DPS. I'm still not certain, though. Let's continue.
Crawly Larry. Crawly Larry looks so scary, wants to play a game of Mary. Settle the score with the before, crash their heads in the door. With you, my friends, their lives shall end and spines shall bend. Sneaky Larry kills the unwary, does he hate them truly? Now, my chum, let's kill these scum, their guts we shall strum.
Crawly Larry does not like to be seen for long. He darts in and out of vision of the before, only appearing as a brief glimpse. Once glimpsed, he can invoke terrifyingly powerful hallucinations on the before. These hallucinations are highly personalized, and Larry often uses them to pin the before in one location for you to pick off. He does need to appear for a brief moment to refresh the hallucinatory effects, though, and if viewed directly for a long period, the hallucinations will fade. He is quite fast, though, and will usually be able to avoid being seen for long. Crawly Larry is quite the sing-song and happy-go-lucky friend. He enjoys playing small pranks on you, and is quite the lovable rascal.
So what Crawly Larry is, I don't hate. I think all of Crawly Larry's abilities are interesting. Him being able to go in and out. I think an automated turret or anything would be his direct counter, but just sans of that, just any sort of person, it seems like it would be able to fuck them up really bad. That being said, Larry plus Slatra would be a fucking nightmare. Just the consistent, the airhead and then the sing-song little prankster be fucking obnoxious. Them just like crawling everywhere and jumping and just, it's like having kids. It would just, you'd be over it after an afternoon. So despite the overall synergy, I can definitely see having Larry with Slatra. No thank you. And I don't hate the rhyming. I think it would be interesting, but maybe a little too much. And just be grating over time. Maybe not. Maybe if there's like not that much music, it might be a nice little extra thing, especially if you don't have the, I don't know if they were the screamers or the singers or those other ghosty guys from before. Yeah, the singers, but it's just, I'm not feeling him. And he, quite frankly, he looks like he'd be unpleasant to look at. Just somehow more so than the rest of them. You have the Eldritch ones, and even still, it's just a bit more gangly than I would like to look at.
The Soon Mother. This group of younglings will be able to fight those nasty egg-breakers in a few days. You have to watch over them well, understand? As they could get hurt, and I can bear to see even one of them hurt. Also, I shot my tentacles and you did not notice, so you best think of a way to make it up to me. Wait. A massive entity, far larger than you even. The Soon Mother carries many unfertilized eggs on her form. Lifeless eggs that need something more to hatch. A wink. She sees you as her avenue and wishes to meld and bond with you, to take some of your essence, allowing her to fulfill her dreams of birthing life. The Soon Mother's children will mature slowly, but will be very powerful. She is immensely protective of them and you, fending off any would-be egg breakers by using her muscular tentacles to crush and cut foes apart. She is, however, rather immobile and will not move while her eggs or young mature. This powerful matron is abrasive and demanding of you, but considers your opinion of her to be very important.
So I'm of two minds with this. On one hand, this is, at least for me, for my build, this is kind of like a freedom, releasing the strains and the bonds, and being like chained unjustly by the before. And here you have a companion which you're kind of choosing to be bound to. And, it's not a nice way of looking at it, but in all practicality, at this point, you're becoming a dad to like a monster brood and a very, it's maybe not a matriarchal wife, but a, not entirely domineering, but it's still more than less, at least from the quote. And that doesn't mesh well with the build I'm thinking of and the sort of the world I'm thinking of, this anarchistic freedom. And that's not even really something I, fantasize about or really dig, but that's, you're a monster at this point. So it kind of fits. Now that being said, now the other side of the coin, if you want to fucking be Typhon, the god, the father of all these monsters, this is it. And this would be the choice that you would have if you wanted to expand out of the city. Because after a certain amount of time and you just keep having these extremely, almost equally powerful children, you're going to be you're going to have a gigantic brood of just absolute beasts. So it doesn't seem bad for the proper build, but for this one, I'm all right. I don't really want to jerk off onto eggs.
Slime fiend. Those before stand before us like ants before a mighty boot. You shall be the hammer that drives them to me, the hefty and mighty anvil. They must be pierced with madness and stupidity if they try to attack me. Oh yes, for my slime is like hellfire in liquid form. He doesn't mind being called the slime friend if you prefer. The slime fiend is a slow-moving but highly toxic ally. He is corroded in a corrosive layer that often melts smaller bullets before they can penetrate deeply, and which ensures any before that he gets his hands on is liquefied. The slime fiend can launch globs of himself as ranged attacks, and he steadily regains any mass lost, even to things like fire. He is capable of controlling his acidity to not melt surroundings. His nigh invulnerability is hindered by his slowness, and he'll often need people to help drive the before to his deathly embrace. The slime fiend is a jovial, jolly friend, quick to laugh when with a bombastic way of speaking.
I really dig the slime friend. He seems like the exact companion I would want, and a really nice counterpart to Roanoke. It really balances out the high intellectual and the just the buddy to pal around with. Maybe not shake hands with or pat in the back, but just a good old jolly boy. Driving them into them. So, I think with the build that I have, you're definitely fast enough and aggressive enough that I think to make them want to flee. There's a whole lot of intimidation factor you can get into to terrify them. And I think I made that a pretty big part of what I wanted, was just a decent amount of terror. And he's right there. Like he says, he's the anvil, which would be perfect. And I gotta say, using the ugly is it Fuhrer ugly Fuhrer, another fucking One Punch Man image in this. It's kind of neat. I'm also really digging. I know it's taken forever. I know there's not a whole lot of plot moving on, but every image of Murata's art is just fantastic. Highly recommend it, even if you turn your nose up to shonen-esque things, which is understandable, but it's worth sticking around for the art.
She who exterminates. All shall kneel before she who exterminates. For I, the fury of the beyond, bear element into this world. You shall kneel too. Kneel and accept my mercy. Kneel and accept my love. Then you may rise as my one and only consort. Does that not sound like a wonderful agreement to you?
She who exterminates lives up to her name well. She has greater access to the dimension that advanced her forms, the one that the arcane blasts draw from. She can repeatedly fire off deadly blasts without tiring, and can even call upon a massive storm of energies every so often. She who exterminates has the ability to enslave before who surrender to her, turning them into monsters. This is quite a useful ability, as she who exterminates sees herself as a queen and you as her king consort. She who exterminates seeks to bend all the denizens of her city to her will, and exterminate any before that does not kneel and accept her merciful treatment. She is casually confident and self-assured, carrying herself as a queen would.
The more I think about this one, the more I like it. Now, I do also love, like I said earlier, I love the bit of extra little bit of lore in the flavor text. I'm a huge fan of that. She seems way stronger the more times I read this. and seems like a better option. Now, the strength isn't necessarily what makes it the better option. I mean, there's strength and utility in her ridiculous Eldritch Blast, smelting things, and the mind control. And I guess, like, another way of making more monsters. I wonder if the ego with it, right? Like, if you're the king consort, she see you on equal footing. Are you the second among equals? And I wonder, if you picked the Soon Mother, how would She Who Exterminates feel about that? Like, if you're the only consort for her, would you be getting insanely jealous, or would you be able to make it so that you two are the main people, but you're able to articulate a good argument to be like, hey, listen, we need more youngins around here, to more subjects for the Empire, rather than just the ones you make. My initial gut reaction is probably not great. Not a great sort of, I think they probably want to kill each other, but I can see I can see the end result of them begrudgingly agreeing. I can't see how that's going to work out initially. It just doesn't, I can't make that work in my head. It does make you wonder like, all of these were people before. They were all the before. And then, with the fucking other dimension energies got turned into this. What the fuck is so, like, I wonder, was the other person as self-assured and confident before, and this just kind of, what is it? It exacerbates it, or was it totally the opposite? Like a totally quiet bookworm, or just a real neat of a person, and this is this is the final push to totally flip it on its head, and all of the sort of fantasies that they're living out in their day-to-day are able to manifest themselves into She Who Exterminates. So not bad. It's definitely up there. It's up there. I really like the Slime Fiend and Runok combo, but She Who Exterminates is like right underneath it.
Bernal, Chronal, and Zernal.
How come we never get to bite the before? I want to crunch them.
I told you their weapons hurt. We gotta just stay up and let the ground-ups clean up while we help. Maybe after, we fly around and drop their bodies. I like the splat sound they make.
Yeah, Zernal, can we do that, please?
Bernal, Gernal, and Zernal, or the BQZ trio, are three young siblings fused together during the event. They take to their position with the glee and whimsy of an energetic child. The BQZ trio can soar for long periods of time, and they can unleash extremely devastating streams of plasma from their jaws, raining death and destruction upon the before. Their frame is rather fragile, however, and thus prefer to stay above and out of reach, only aiding with their burning, superheated breath. Bernal, Gernal, and Zernal are all slightly different in personality. Bernal is aggressive and strong-willed, Gernal is adventurous and bright-eyed, and Zernal is mature, serious, and level-headed.
BQZLD, baby. No. I mean, no. Not. I mean, they're cool. They seem like they would be fun to, if we were picking a personality, like a bunch of friends you'd want to hang out with solely. Slime Friend and BQZ seem like they'd be pretty good. You know, they're just you have your variety. You got three different lads to hang around with. They're all of their different temperaments. They balance each other out and make any conversation with them pretty engaging. That being said, I don't know if that makes up for what they bring to the table in terms of just their aerial superiority, which is great, but they're also kind of fragile relative to everything else. I don't know. It's a great terror tactic to have just a fucking giant flying dragon. So that's a bonus, but I think they'd have to take the third or fourth spot. Yeah, She Who Exterminates is getting a little higher in my mind, but BQZ is, I think BQZ is right there with She Who Exterminates, but for like the opposite reasons.
Teresa, stay back. I'll wipe at them before with a flood. Wait, what? They're camped out on a high building? Then I'll use rain to flush them out. Oh wait, they're inside? That really dirty, nasty building that no one goes in? No, I don't want to. Fine, let's go. But I won't like it.
Hadrista is well adapted to life in the city's waterways. She can not only move about them rapidly, but she can manipulate water to a degree. She can launch powerful blasts, but also raise water levels and cause tidal waves to impede the Before's movements. She can even alter the water in the skies to cause heavy rain in certain areas, impeding progress of the Before. Hadrissa's control is so fine that she can leave dry areas around her allies so that they are not impeded by her hydromancy. She is quite loyal to her friends and is an idealist in believing in your friendship together. Her nerves are quite high-strung, and Hadrissa has a tendency to flip out when taken out of her comfort zone.
Teresa, girl, you break my heart. You have the perfect power, and now, look at your personality. It is not. What is the opposite of a chef's kiss? It is trash. It's unfortunate because her power set with the aquatic form locomotion thing is one of the best. Hers is akin to being like a low tier She Who Exterminates with the water just being able to blast them. And then you have the hydrokinesis. It's about the same range as the mist and the ooze in terms of its ability to be useful and sort of crowd control. So it breaks my heart to see it just being so in terms of personality. Oh, I don't like it. And it sucks. It's just dealing with high-strung people is not my strong suit. I can empathize. I can try to emotionally comfort, but I don't know if I've had. I mean, if you've dealt with people like that, after a couple of years, you just kind of lose. You lose that bit of patience for high-strungness, and then you just kind of want to keep that out of your life. So having that as a permanent fixture, as your like, even if it's just a friend, your arm gal, having it high-strung all the time, when you're not in a good situation, no, thank you. I'd rather take the slime feed and slime friend. How dare I? So let's do a quick little tier list for the choices and companions. At the very bottom, we're going to do Hadrissa and Crawly Larry. They would be useful, but their personalities might get a bit grating. Then you have Slatura and the Soon Mother, and it's just, while they do have a bunch of really neat benefits to have with you, there's bits of their personality that they're either personalities might get a little grating, or their benefits are just too low. Then you have, coming up, you have BQZ and She Who Exterminates, strictly because they're up there, right? But they have some small personality quirks or power sort of things that are just shy. So She Who Exterminates, it's that domineering thing. It's not super for me. And the BQZ, they're just a little too fragile. And then you have Ruanok, who seems like a weird, neat surgical cat who might be really fun to have around and talk and see and do weird, cute, cool experiments with. And the slime friend, who comes up at top like a negative Kugoth, just a big ray of sunshine while he gives you a big hug and melts your face.
It was off from the beginning. Something smelt when the scouts made 3 calls before going silent. They acknowledged their entry 2 clicks north of the base of operations on the outskirts of town. Soon after, they reported being hounded, but the static cut off any details as to what. Their last message, something about not using comms in the city. I could see it from where I was standing. That jagged maw of densely packed buildings loomed gray and still, a sentinel waiting to devour those foolish enough to enter.
I've got a real bad feeling about this, Sarge.
Griff whispered in my ear away from the men. He was my youngest sergeant in the platoon. Hell of a nose on the boy, saved our necks more than once.
Worse than that time you said you loved that stripper from the Tijuana Donkey Show.
He was a major pain in my ass. It is Lieutenant now, and I told you, don't speak of my ex-wife like that. I said, leaving to do the final inspection on the gear. Anyway, I'd be more concerned if you didn't. Griff grabbed my arm, stopping me in my tracks, and said,
I know I'm usually paranoid, Sarge, but this is different.
I gave him a long, hard look as he searched for the words in the ear to my side.
I've only seen birds, and even still, it's just too quiet. Like whatever's in there knows.
I understand. I'll be mindful of it. But you know as well as I, search and destroy. And with Lopez's squad unresponsive, we have no choice but to follow. Go and make sure Simmons is ready. We'll leave in 5. I said 5 minutes before we willingly walked into hell. It seemed simple at first, like a repeat of when we cleared Chernobyl. 3 squads sweep in, a few blocks apart, and purge whatever we find living that shouldn't. We move fast and quiet. We were told there could be potential interference, lingering effects of the event that hit the city. So, when about a block in and our GPS, as expected, started going haywire, I was prepared. What I didn't expect was to turn a corner to stare down the barrel of Simmons' squad. With a rapid jerk of our guns, we sided away from each other. With practiced smoothness, we coalesced into a single unit and scanned around us as I moved towards him. Leaning in, I whispered, "What kind of amateur hour bullshit are you pulling?"
What? No.
He stammered, his voice failing to reciprocate the low, practiced calm. He took a second and frowned. More composed now, he said,
That can't be right. We did it as before.
A sharp caw broke through the membrane-thin quiet, followed by the short crack of controlled fire. Silence. A breath. More caws and far less controlled fire. I leaned in again and said, "Head back east. I'm going northwest. Do not get lost again. Make a map if you need to."
Sarge,
he began before he caught himself.
Yes, sir.
With a flurry of hand signals, they moved on. We did the same, but as we were starting off, something on the roof of the nearest building caused me to do a double take. Birds. Crows. Rows and rows of crows. I've been everywhere, man, and I knew murders lined up. This wasn't it. They move around, look at each other, caw, make some noise. These birds, they just sat there staring at us. An errant twitch or two was the only thing that distinguished them from the gargoyles. I waited not telling my squad for a moment, as to not spook 'em, but I erred on the side of caution. You stay alive the more you take in, and it's worth the palpable nerves on some of the fresher ones. Under overpasses and building by building we moved. The further in we traveled, the more signs of recent life we found. A few rooms not fully encased in dust, hastily discarded blankets, tables with toy miniatures on them, and pots of these beautiful black flowers. We traveled for a while before we heard or saw anything. Entering down a long street, we see Simmons' squad turn a corner, when Tucker, the soldier covering our right flank, signals he saw something. Freezing in place, we scan our surroundings until I see something fast in the corner of my eye. My barrel swung and I said, "To the left, it darted!" Another shape darts through the darkness between the buildings to my right. "Shit, it's to the right as well, get down and..." A talon scraping my cheek and helmet cuts me off. At once we were beset by what felt like the entire murder. We were so busy beating them away I didn't notice the fast little horrors until they took down Church, the man covering our caboose. I heard an agonized, breathless yelp before 4 cracks went off. Whatever it was, it scurried halfway down the road by the time I noticed. The birds pissed off pretty quickly after the attack. Besides some slashes on our faces, Church was the only one with any serious injuries. After a once-over of the group, I took point on Overwatch while I called out to O'Malley. "Doc, take a look at Church. He is a mess." O'Malley was the only PhD in any of my squads. Seemingly overqualified, his natural overabundance of curiosity led him to me, where he could study the weirdness before we burnt it all to hell. After a few moments, O'Malley walked up to me, wiping his hands.
The facial lacerations above the eye will bleed like a son of a bitch, but it's mostly cosmetic. Whatever that thing was that got him, stuck him good and deep under the arm. A rib is potentially fractured. I cleaned and wrapped him, but it's ugly.
Shit, I said before I spit. Walking over to church, I saw him staring down and asked, "Are you good?" He continued to stare off for a second before looking up.
Yeah, Sarge, I'll manage. Just shook up is all.
I moved on with a frown and a curt nod. V formation. Doc up front with me. Texan back. Formed up and we moved on through. We cleared 2 more buildings with nothing to show for it except for a few more flowers and the sound of Church's increasingly heavy feet. We exited the building to a heavy overcast, beckoning dusk. Tex is barely able to clear the buildings by the time the cacophony of cause started. The sound enveloped us entirely. With a single shot, it died for a moment. Only a moment. I didn't see who fired, as the next second we were beset by all sides. More intense than the first, it was like a swarm of bees. So thick was the cloud of scraping, slashing crows, I could barely make my hand to my gun after swatting the first out of my face. The screams and cries were incrementally drowned out by blasts of rifle fire. Muzzle flashes bright, splattering gore and sending feathers flying. Before long, the birds took flight, leaving us to collect our senses, and are dead. Tex and 5 other soldiers lay around piles of crow bodies. The rest, including Tex, laid lifeless and had holes gouged out of their chests and sides. I shook my head as I surveyed the carnage and said, "We need to retreat back inside and regroup. I don't care what the scouts said, we need to hit comms for backup. Doc, hurry and grab as many as you can."
Sarge?
No time to talk, we gotta move.
But, Sarge...
What? I snapped back at him with frantic frustration as I hefted Tex over my shoulder. O'Malley didn't look back. He just kept staring with utter disbelief and said,
"Sarge, I don't see the door. I don't see anything but walls."
Frustration flared. I snapped to look back. Disbelief turned to nervous panic. The chill of a cold sweat as my eyes darted from one building to another. Different styles, sizes, and building materials, and not a single door. Each building down the entire block had long, built-in tight concrete faces across the first floor. Turning around, each building ahead was unaffected. I said to myself through bared, gritted teeth, "Like cattle for the slaughter." Calling the rest, we made our way to the closest building. O'Malley and I swept the floor as Church watched who we can carry in. As we moved through the building, the faint echo of sporadic gunfire reached us. By the time we got back, Church was all but indistinguishable from the rest, leaning against the wall. O'Malley rushed over and had him lay down. He walked over to me, repeatedly running his hands through his hair, and said,
"Sarge, this isn't looking good. Church looks way worse off than just a few busted ribs should cause."
"That is why I am getting comms set up."
"I don't know if that's a good idea."
I put down the relay and just looked at him and said, "What other options do we have now, Doc? We need to regroup and call for an evac. Reinforcements." O'Malley looked down, eyes hard with thought and lined with concern. He replied slowly,
"I know, it's just... Lopez. He was never too cautious. And his warning..."
"Have been considered," I interrupted. "But unless you have something better." I flipped on the switch, picked up the relay, and without looking back, I said, "Go rest for a bit. You look like shit." I entered the code for the right frequency and made the request for moderate reinforcements. Usually, these kinds of casualties would call for heavy support, but with the missions they assigned me on, they're as likely to wipe us off the map as they are to extract us. I attempted to reach Griff and Simmons on comms, but with no reply. I gave them each the location of the next building. Hopefully they'll be able to regroup while we formulate a plan. I sit back, take a few breaths, and shake away unusually heavy lids. I survey the men we lost. My eyes fall on Church. His shirt was torn where the bandages were applied. Black blood creeps up cloth, leaving little white left. I move closer to take a better look, and maybe help O'Malley clean him up, when, as I approach, he starts shaking. Slow at first, but his pace increases in rhythmic intervals. Despite myself, I take a step back, my hands falling on my gun strapped to my chest. I called for O'Malley as Church starts to violently seize. Screaming, "Doc, come on, man!" I looked back and my eyes met another. Behind O'Malley's still head is a long tangled weave of crimson hair. Two wide oceans of white marked by islands of black peek through and lock my eyes onto hers. The head slowly lowered into nothing, our gaze never breaking. I knew little to nothing of field medicine, so O'Malley was Church's only hope. I dived over and tried to shake him awake. I checked his vitals while Church's seizure reached its zenith with a slam, slam, crack as his head slammed into the floor. Feeling nothing from the doctor, I grabbed his bag and moved to stabilize Church while he stopped. I saw his chest rise, so he wasn't done yet. I checked the bag for anything that might be useful when I heard a final rapid succession of meaty wet cracks. His chest began to rise, but never fell. Like a latex glove, his abdomen stretched unnaturally large, ribs pushed out and seen through the skin until it finally burst like a blood blister. Viscera splattered across the room. I tasted blood and bile in my mouth, unsure if it was my own. Larger than Church by half, his innards ran down the shimmering carapace of this creature. Reflexively, I fired into it, muscle memory stopping me from dumping my entire magazine. 4-shot center mass only made it step backwards. As I reached for a grenade, I noticed the other men began to slowly shake as well. My mind went hazy with terror, and I must have turned to run as the armor-clad beast took a tentative step forward onto uneasy feet. The next thing I knew, I was outside the door, lobbing a grenade. As I slammed it shut, I realized I grabbed O'Malley in my haste. I weighed my options for a second and made my way to the front of the building. As the night air hit my face, I heard the dulled thump of a grenade going off. I turned back to see the door open and a large hooved foot cave in O'Malley's unfortunately placed head before I sprinted off to the next building. For a while I sat there, in a dark, empty office room, eating a Snickers, and the only thing going through my head is that I wish I took leave in Graceland instead. It has been 1,198 days. That is 3 years, 3 months, and 12 days since the bombs went off in my face. It's clear to me now, but the memories fade in and out. Some days I barely remember the before time, and some days I could relive my moments as a 22-year-old meandering through life. And just for that, man, they threw me in a cage like an animal. I just walked, explored, and over a new town, a new batch of uptight people who didn't want another vagrant defiling their home. I prefer son of the soil, but they use such hurtful words for someone whose only crime was wanting to see, to experience the world, rather than sleepwalk into a soul-grinding corporate job. See, I'm a pacifist by choice as well as nature, so they wanted me out of society, and I didn't fight them. I simply didn't conform to their silly social constructs, like reading, borders, or wearing foot prisons. I'm not sure which one ticked them off, but one minute I'm exploring these neat neo-Egyptian pyramid building things, and the next I'm surrounded by a bunch of thugs with guns. They throw me in this gray cell, and I'd swear they forgot about me, but that bitch Sarah kept bringing me bland cafeteria food. I know they had vegan options like I asked Sarah. I saw your plate. I saw your plate when the doors opened. 178 days. 5 months, 26 days, they kept this free soul caged. I had nothing to do but count, until the screams started. Everyone started shouting and running out before red strobing lights drowned all other colors, and all of the mechanical doors opened. Not being one for stress or trends, I just wandered around. The place was unlike anything I'd ever seen. So many rooms with all manner of far-out technology. The spatial dimensions were all out of this world. You open one door, and it's an office room. The next led to this massive hangar. It probably would have been pretty if it wasn't for the red tint.
I kept moving and grooving until I saw it. A room unlike any other. Vast, with a ring of black oily stones in the middle. There were cables snaking to the center from all around the room. I couldn't see what it was, because before I can get close,
A flash of white turned to nothingness. I awoke in a normal office room across the complex. Layers on layers of skin webbed around the room, mucus clinging and dripping from every surface. A cocoon of me. Me before. Pulling, I felt the tension snap from my fleshy bonds. Stretching my fingers to rip myself free, a rushing sensation like pistons firing and locking into place shot through my hand. The veiny curtains parted like cobwebs before me, baptizing me in a rain of my own blood. Free from the chamber of my second birth, I found myself outside looking at the sky. I felt the blood roll off the smoothness of my form. The reflective black stone of the building wall showed my distorted physique. Tall and broad-shouldered, I stood relatively lean for my size. My skin, seemingly forever encased in this chitinous frame, felt the warmth of the sun through it all. Glands shivered and stretched, running down parts of my back and throughout my covered creases. I looked back to the sky, and in a distorted, unfamiliar, alien voice, I howled the joy of my new freedom for the whole city to hear. Now I stand atop the tallest tower in the city, and as before, there is naught but beauty before me. Heathrow, one of my many feathered friends, lands upon my shoulder. He updates me on those before who wish to destroy the lovely city they chained us to. I gently stroke him beneath his beak, thank him for the report and say, meeting up near the city center? Oh, they shall get there, but they will have to take the long way. Inform Libby. Tell her to reroute them for your siblings and the boys. I trust you all know what to do. With a caw, Heathrow fluttered away. I wait a while, stare at the open mango smoothie sky, breathe in the clean air from multiple sensory slits, and BAM! BAM! Crack! BAM! The vibration accompanying the sounds hit me even up here. It seems they refuse to play with Libby. I'll have to make it up to her later. I take a step and plummet, letting gravity take me. 1. My eyes stay closed, and I count. 2. This is not the first time. 3. A crack sounds as pressure releases from the bulbous mound that is my back. Multiple, razor-thin wings unfurl. Mucus strips off from the fall. Immediately turgid, they beat with a low, deep hum. My eyes open a moment from the ground, and I swoop upwards in a sudden U-arc. It takes only a moment to find them from the smoking ruin and bodies they left behind, both of my friends and theirs. I can see Heathrow's brothers are not letting their sibling sacrifices go to waste. They immediately dig into their cadaverous cocoon. As I lower to the ground only 2 blocks away, I hear other rounds crack in the distance. It appears one did decide to entertain Libby. I'll have to reward them in time. As they surprised me, I shall surprise them. I saw where they were going, so I'm gonna cut them off. Facing a wall of a building, I begin walking, and with the internal impulse, like before closing off their sinuses, I push my body through the wall, as if it were a morning fog. I make my way through 2 buildings before I come across a handful of corpses. They had been host for the crows. Most were eviscerated from neck to groin. A few never finished incubating and were strewn across the floor. I walk through a door and bend over the only one that was intact for all but its head, sundered down the middle. I slide my hands under each hemisphere and make it whole with a gentle firmness. Even with my best efforts, the Before's face is mutilated, but there is enough to emulate him. A moment later, his doppelganger, fit and whole, stares back at him. I unceremoniously drop his head, cracking it open again and splattering it like a juicy melon. It is not that I am unable to feel empathy, but those willing to shed the innocent blood of their ruler's victims have already chosen their fate. I pick up his gun and continue towards the walls. I emerge in the alleyway next to the main street, and I just catch the leg of a soldier passing by across the road. Quickly, I make my way to the end of the alley, and I purposely stumble to the ground, making sure my gun clatters on the pavement. I hear a whistle as their call stops. Prone with eyes shut, I hear commotion as I writhe on the floor. Two unfortunates run across. One lifts and drags me, while the other watches for my friends. My arm around his neck and my hand slips through his supraclavicular fosse. A little flesh behind the clavicle, and a second later he drops to my left as I catch myself on bended knee. All guns train on us as he calls and reaches for his fellow soldier. Holding out my hand, I stop him. I look up and present his plucked heart, still pumping the last of his vita down my arm, and rasp out,
It looks like he dropped something.
in a near arm. My claws burst through full flesh. They swipe upwards, erasing the jaw from his face, a flaccid tongue left flapping in the wind. I dash and am halfway across the road, claws ready when I stop dead in my tracks. My entire body seized. Intoxicating fragrance of the soul calls to me. I turn, barely registering the equally stunned soldiers. As I slowly walk towards the scent, the rest of my body begins to bulge, straining the skin in some places, tearing through in others. I see an older soldier, kneeling, elbow rested on a medical bag. The sores. My pace quickens and I hear muffled yelling. They don't register, but the bullets which follow do. A few pierce, biting away at the copy flesh of my back. Others harmlessly bounce off the revealed, chinless carapace. The older soldier is a fine shot. 1 second my cheek is torn away, leaving a Cheshire smile. The next, the same teeth are pushed through a sizable hole in the back of my throat. My eyes follow, but the path to me is clear enough without sight. Clawed arms extended, I prepare to embrace his viscera and breathe deep the floral essence. That is before I hear the thunk and preceding thump. Hearing returns to my remaining ear that is fading quickly. Pain shoots through and twitches my only intact leg before darkness subsumes me. I meander in and out of consciousness. Eyes open, I'm being dragged, eyes closed. Eyes open.
Sleep, sleep. Still just a moment longer. Good.
I hear a familiar windy voice say before eyes close. Eyes open once more and my senses are back to me. I am laying on a couch in an office. It is similar to those the before use, however all of the furniture is massive, sized for those of my kind and larger. Once decaying, ramshackle pieces have been reborn, cannibalized and Frankenstein to something greater than the sum of their parts. Art. Roanoke, where are you? I hack out.
Right here, my friend, right here.
Roanoke says as he slowly lowers himself from the ceiling above. Overlapping waves of tendrils pull his light, ever-shifting body behind the desk.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to see how you were recovering.
Roanoke says, head and eyes clanging back and forth, in and out of sync with one another. Oh, was the damage that severe? I ask.
Well, I had to temporarily sever your vitals. For surgery.
He said nonchalantly. I began to rise, and in response he started singing. A chirping at first melded into a beautiful melody, with lyrics added from unseen mouths. The sound sapped all strength from my limbs and aggression from my body. I laid down until he spoke.
Now, calm down. I knew once you came to, you would be displeased. But it was to prove a point.
He said, trying to douse the combustion of my temper as my senses returned. You know how I feel about that. Pupils, once wide horizontal ovals, quickly morphed to sharp vertical slits behind thick lenses.
I do. And that is why I did it. And why I will do it again. But this time, as you hear it coming on, flex behind your neck.
He said, his voice a placating, quivering tone. I did as he instructed, and as if a lip stretched up and wrapped around my ears, the sound muffled. Not to the point of incomprehension, but enough to take away any pathos from the song's heart. I lifted up my hand. He ceased, and I said, "You did it. I can't believe it. It's almost bittersweet."
It is unfortunate the lengths I must go, but it seems well worth it.
He said, making the best attempt at a smile a mass of tendrils could manage.
Our flying friends informed me that the last group piled up in the sewers. I imagine it was Libby that sent them there, presumably to corner them. Unfortunately, things seem to have taken an unpredictable turn. Instead of traveling down towards our
His tendrils rattled in a poor attempt to effect a cough.
superbly secretions companion, they have taken a relatively narrow corridor and have held it against anything we've sent towards them. The worst part is the horrible music they're blurring, almost a challenge, hence the surgery.
I nod and say, "I'll make short work of them,"
Shorter than you know.
he said with a smile in his voice, and continued.
I have asked our avian friends to bring back the remains of their cocoons. I have recently discovered that while the cadavers are husks of their previously virile selves, there is just enough left for me to make use in my art.
Your flesh puppets?
They are more than mere puppets. They move and can even think on their own. They are the children I may never have. As we speak, they should be corralling the rest of them towards the sewers so we can finish them off in one blow.
Ruinok wipes one of his eye stalks and says,
As a father, I am so proud.
"I stand upon a small building near enough to see the entrance of the sewer system." True to his word, Ruinok's sons have chased the remaining soldiers inside. Occasionally, the sound of weapon fire escapes the tunnels. I descend quickly and enter, passing the twitchy amalgamations of before through foot-high water. Some still writhe, broken yet unable to die their second death. I leave them for Ruinok to repurpose. The water rises, enough for a before to drown in, leaving narrow walkways on either side. I submerge and kick off, leaving little bubbles in my wake. My lean form cuts through the water as I bounce off each wall like a tree frog. Through the exposed, porous skin of my creases, I take on water. Instead of slowing me down, I sponge it up and my muscles engorge, each movement less strenuous, each more agile. I feel my chitinous skin split away like chapped lips to make room for the added bulk. Water catches on my hands and feet, newly grown fins, and my speed increases. Low at first, I hear the muffled sounds of music through the water. I slow down and flex behind my neck, and slowly raise my eyes above the water. I've caught up to them. They are running towards a fork in the waterway. The music is coming from the right. Either by luck or the last help of Libby, the water still flows in that direction. A devilish idea struck me, so I let all but the last continue their journey. I raise my right arm from the water, and a forearm panel of chitin opens. A twitch of muscles sends white streaming ropes through the air, and it catches all over the last man's back and legs. I yank back, and his legs fall behind him. He screams as I drag him back through the water, but no one comes back for him. I lift my heft onto the walkway and pull my catch up. He is spurting and coughing up water as I bring him to my eyes. Rivulets stream down across his wide eyes, lips tight, and chest occasionally pumping with a suppressed cough. I hold his gaze as I spray arcs across the tunnel, leaving no way out but through the water. I fling him onto the web, leaving him to gasp and cough before submerging myself once again. The closer I reach, the more corpses pollute the water. Crow and abominations litter the waterways, dotted with the rare before corpse. The sound is clear through the water now. If not for Ruinok, I may have just floated here until they left or found me. I see lights above and keep going for their rear. Once in familiar darkness, I climb up. I walk towards the light slowly, making no attempt to hide my sound nor my form. I hear muffled shouting and moments later the tunnel was illuminated by muzzle flashes, and I had hit with a wall of bullets. Normally this would at least stagger me, but engorged I do not even break my stride. Slowly I lift my arms up, knuckles down, the bone-like tubes embedded through my wrists aimed, and with a sensation akin to urination, I let loose a volley of hyper-pressurized water, with a sound like a swarm of angry beetles flying at once and immediately ceasing a second later. 3 of the closest before collapse into wet chunks, splashing into the water before they could even make a sound. No stunned silence this time, just the clink of grenades and screams of the other men to move. Or at least, I assumed that from the immediate retreat. I figure I should be able to withstand the grenades, but the collapse of the surrounding waterways may leave me incapacitated for long enough for them to escape, so I dive. I move fast enough that by the time they go off, I'm already ahead of them before. I decide to toy with these intruding dogs some more. I raise only one arm from the water to pepper the lead man, dart beneath and emerge from behind to riddle the straggler. The music died from the explosion, so I relax my neck to indulge in their screams. They finally make it to the fork. From the shouts I hear one either ran into the webs or was pushed in. Either way, he cries for his comrades to free him. In their panic, none dare stop. I am too close. I hear 3 jump in and the rest continue moving ahead, making empty promises of return. I reach the fork and the man entwined has stopped thrashing. He is relegated to squirming as the webs further bind his body in a feedback loop. I will leave these 2. I'm sure the Croakian and the Abominations will relish a chance to get their pounds of flesh. I dive once more and make my way towards the men. I easily catch up to them. They have pulled themselves onto the walkway, but a volley above their heads forced them to join my swim. I watch their desperate strokes, how they choke on the water. I can feel the anxious dread of their beating hearts. An occasional gentle stroke of a thigh, a slice of a tendon to watch them flail and bleed from below. I play with them for a brief while before sense takes hold of me, and I remember my attention is needed elsewhere. To thank these dogs for the fun, I decide to make their ends quick. I am unsure if it is my entire head, or my eyes shaking due to the pressure building behind them, but my vision quakes for a moment before the climax. I release. A pulse of electricity flows through the waterway. Seizing, their desperate struggle ends as they float to the top like fish in a bowl. I reach the before at a circular pool, the end of the waterway. I watch from the darkness as the 4 remaining men pass bags around, argue, and set charges on 2 massive doors that have no other chance of opening. The flash of the charge shines on my face, usually fully encased like an armored insectoid. While engorged, it is a fusion of Piscine and reptilian in nature. A near helmet split and protruding to form a predatory maw. They rush in. The sound of moist cobblestone transformed to suctioning mire echoes through the air. Their rifle lights swing frantically, illuminating every corner of the chamber. Eyes barely able to make sense of what it sees before moving on. A noxious lair the size of a major city's train station. Pillars run its lengths on either side. A thick, viscous layer of ooze coat and cake their ridges. The before cough and wheeze as they make their way past piles of unidentifiable sludge, sizes varying from knee-high mounds to hills which create choke points, even in this vast space. The soldier holding the rear is wary for me, so much so he neglects to watch his footing. With the schlump of wet vile, his leg is plunged deep to his upper shin. A few good tugs and he is free of more than the slime. His leg, a foot shorter than anticipated, falls hard, tripping him over to splash in the acidic muck. His screams are of horror more than agony. Gripping his stump, he wails as outfit and speckled face are slowly melted to join the goo garden.
God damn it, no!
The man on the right said and turned to the other 2.
Don't let any of that shit get on you. It'll burn right through everything but the steel soles of our boots, and I don't even know how long that'll last.
The wails turned to screams as his nerves began to burn. The lead man, the same older before who blew me to pieces, turns back, looks for a second, and silences the screecher.
Jesus, Sarge, what the hell?
The one on the left yelled, eyes bulging.
Simmons, you heard him. I'd want you to do the same for me. Now shut it and keep sharp. There has to be some way out of here.
Sarge.
The one on the right said.
I have the same bad feeling as...
His voice stopped with his feet as the massive hill to his right began to sit up. The man wasted no time and unleashed all he had into the growling, feculent hill. What I'd like to wake up to! The slime fiend smiles wide as the flashlight and falling bullets hit his face. His arms stretch out even wider and embrace the man on the right like an old, loved friend.
Griff, no!
Simmons cried. The slime engulfed him fully, lapping over his head and down his back. It would only be moments before, BAM! An explosion erupted from within the fiend, sending acidic ooze across the room. The men duck and Sarge cursed as he frantically wiped some off that reached his arm. Talk about indigestion! The slime fiend chokes out before he falls backwards, shaking the massive room. Agony in Simmons' voice as he screams,
Bastard!
And empties his weapon into the slime fiend's ample corpse. I approach behind him, making only my final footstep audible. His head snaps, tears rolling down his red-rimmed, terrified eyes. I reach my hand to his face, claws extended and stroke his cheek, gently pulling down. I say slowly, Do not feel too bad. The slime fiend is a good guy. You know what? How about this? I bend down and lift him under the arms like a toddler, and look up at him. He impotently struggles in my vice grip, unable to reach either of his weapons. Go join your Griff and see why we call him the Slime Friend, I said, unable to keep the sneer from my voice when speaking the before's name. I unceremoniously chuck him into the body of the slime fiend and turn to the last soldier. He is halfway across the room, standing between too many mountains of filth. Just standing, staring. Sarge, is it? Don't think I've forgotten you. I project my voice, thrilling at the distance as I slowly walk towards him. I am going to pay you back for the... Oh, you probably don't know. It was me who splattered all over my city earlier. I will pay you back for that. Slowly, I stop. But first, I raise my arm and unleash 3 streams of hyper-compressed spurts of water, bursting through 2 opposite sludge piles and a pillar to my right. Pebbles of debris rain above us as I continue. First, let's take a foot, then we can take our time and enjoy ourselves. I raise my arm to the stunned man, take aim and freeze. I am unable to shoot. I feel my senses drawing away. Malice drained and replaced with all-consuming familiar desire. To replace this acrid stench with a lovely bouquet. I turn to see the top half of Simmons protruding from the down stomach of the slime fiend. A medical bag half melted in one hand, the other raised a crushing black flower. I run towards it as my mind goes blank. I awake sore and alone in the slime fiend's lair. Most of the carapace and flesh from below my neck have melted down like mercury and continue to do so faster than I can regenerate it. The slime fiend is absent. Sarge has absconded. I return through the waterways, washing off my acidic lather. I pass through the few ragged, fleshy remains of the webbed men and make my way to the tallest building once my wings have healed. I look out to my city, naught but beauty before me. Body now free, but spirit chained. I hear them coming from beyond sight of the quiet city. This place shall be their cell to endure as I have.